And here we go. Get some guys from Australia the other day. It was great. So if you guys are awake still, welcome to the Late Night Alumni. I'm the professor. Okay, so if you were reading up, if you read the description in this video, you're going to see that we're going to talk about sign language. And for some of you guys who don't know what sign language is a term that was invented by a guy named Kevin Samuels. And Kevin Samuels was one of the first men in this world who decoded what people really meant when they said certain things. How's it going, guys? If I'm sideways right now, let me know, because I have to run this in horizontal to try this new microphone. And if you can't hear me, just put a 1 in the chat or something like that. So anyway, this is how to use sign language in order to discredit people. And I know this from my own personal experience. Basically, it's a form of Machiavellianism. It's definitely psychopathic behavior, and it's used by a lot of people that have used it on me. So I'm just going to talk about everything. I'm going to talk a couple of episodes that happened to me and who did them. So I've been able to watch and see patterns. If you step back and you zoom out a little bit in the world, you'll be able to see the people that probably have lied to you, dicked you over, stolen from you. Because basically people who are inferior to you are going to try and steal your ideas. They're going to try and steal your girlfriend if she's prettier than theirs is, or if they don't have one, because basically they just want to be you. Yep, they want to be you. Look at that. So here's my take on this. Okay, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. Anytime you're in an argument with somebody and they're losing, they're going to use these 4 tactics. And basically, if you're if you are in an argument with somebody and all they do is deflect, blame other people, never take responsibility, these are the tactics that they use: shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. This does not just apply to women. This doesn't just apply to men. This applies to virtually anybody and everybody that can't do what you do. That's one of the things I enjoy about being in this simulation that we're in, is because the simulation isn't all rainbows and puppy dogs. Simulation is basically here to to enjoy this life, but you're going to have problems in this life. You will have problems, and these are the people that are problematic. These people that are being a problem to you, because you got a great business, you got a great thing going on, and they just cannot handle the fact that you have succeeded, especially the people who really wanted you to fail. Most of the people that I've noticed that wanted me to fail were family members that from an early age saw that I was a fuck up in various ways. But once I removed myself from those people, I started to observe that they basically would hold on to one mistake you might have made in life, and that set and painted the picture of the type of person they assumed you would be for the rest of your life. For example, in my case, I was an alcoholic, full-blown alcoholic for many, many years. Then on the 19th of March, 2002, I went to Florida, walked to ex-girlfriend's house. She had a new boyfriend literally a couple days after I had broke up with her, and got into a fight with this guy. And then they called the police on me. And so that was that. It was the last day I ever had a drink. That was the 19th of March, 2002. That's one of the things in this world that, people will try and discredit you for, but you are the only one in your life that can actually take responsibility for you, not the real you, not the pretending to be you, the one that you look in the mirror and see every single day and say, yep, that's me. And the cool thing now is that if you live an honest life, you can own all these things that you used to do and laugh at it, because I mean, think about it. In March, it'll be 22 years ago. That's how long it's been since I've had a drink, by the grace of God. But it's also because I decided I'm not going to drink anymore, because a guy named Gordon Broom, who worked at the VA hospital in the homeless center, said that every single time I got in trouble, been drinking. So why don't you stop drinking? You'll stop getting in trouble. And I thought this dude was a damn genius. So just an observation. When I was ripping and running, I always had like a wingman of some kind or a wing girl of some kind. That's usually what happens when people are deep, deep into addiction. Will usually cling to somebody else who has that same addiction. Like an alcoholic will hang out in bars because they feel accepted there. And drug addicts will hang out in shooting galleries or crack houses or wherever because that's where they feel accepted. Now let's fast forward. Let's say you were one of those people and you walk away from that life. What's the first thing out of their mouth about you after you stop drinking and you stop doing drugs or you stop stealing or you stop lying or you stop acting up? Is that they're going to remember the old you. They're going to remember that you, that used to be you, that crashed cars and maybe destroyed furniture and just dumb shit that I think every single alcoholic and drug addict can identify with. What's up, bros? Hey. So if you read in the title, if you read in the description of this video, you'll see that I wrote how to destroy your enemies using this sign language technique. Now, I'm going to put myself in the aggressor position, and we're going to have a fictitious victim, so to speak. Because any of you guys who say, oh, I mean, you're playing a victim. Some people were victims. Some people have been victims. And in my case, I was a victim to several people that just didn't like me. And that's just how it is. If they don't like you, they're going to fucking try everything they can to lie to your face and stab you in the back when you turn around. And there's a lot of dudes out there like that. A lot of women out there like that. If you ever had an ex-girlfriend, I've had tons of ex-girlfriends that didn't like me anymore. And I was the toxic boyfriend that they could never forget. That's all they talked about. So I'll give you a little bit of background. When I was in Mexico City, I was in a shack up situation during a coronavirus. Now, the first thing out of the box is that this girl had been alpha widowed by a guy who lied, cheated, stole, whatever from her. And so she was so devastated by this that she carried on that trauma into probably every relationship she'll ever be in for the rest of her life. Because where I was mentally, spiritually, however you want to do it, I was right there with it. Low frequency, low bottom, just an advantage taker. Okay. And I was, of course, a notorious cheater for very, very, very long time. So it wasn't until, I had that little come to Jesus moment when I was sitting out in the fucking woods in Land by myself with no money, no transportation, in a cabin for 45 fucking days with no water, no food, no electricity, sleeping in the fucking dark in the woods, that I came to realize that even though I've been sober for all these years, I'm still doing those dumbass behaviors that a lot of alcoholics use, a lot of alcoholics do. So I'm reflecting back on this and I'm like thinking to myself, you know what? I wasn't wrong in a lot of these situations. I wasn't wrong in a lot of these situations. Now, for the ones that I did do wrong, I take responsibility. But I'm going to point out a couple of things that my specific life that have happened to me that help paint that picture into the person that they had hoped I had become or not become and what I actually became. So with that in mind, let's talk about this. Let's talk about shame, the first part of sign language. You see, one of the best tactics here in Mexico is shaming tactics. Now, you probably heard this before, that, if a person broke their arm, everybody signs the cast. It says, oh, sorry about your arm, bro. Get well soon. And they write on it. But when a person is called crazy, that's where things get deep, because if you want to discredit somebody after you've done something bad to them or lied about them or stolen from them, best thing to do is to classify them as crazy. See, in this way, it alleviates all responsibility on the other person's part and then puts all of the blame, and it confirms and validates that complaint about the person being crazy for what that person did to you. It's a genius tactic and it's Machiavellian. I believe it's also in the 48 Laws of Power. I can't tell you which one because I'm just going to tell you from my story. Okay. Shame. When I went off to the military, I had left because I despised my mother. My mother was abusive. She was an alcoholic. I was neglected as a kid, and there was really no defending that. But the people that didn't know who she really was defended her. And instead of being on my side and saying, "Oh, you poor baby," no, they've simply made excuses for the person who hurt you. And so let me just elaborate a little bit. My mother was also a notorious cheater. She was with a guy named Bill who was like 90 years old, and she was like 35. Okay. He was rich, he had power, he had property, he had money, and everybody knew he was taking advantage because she was a gold digger. Always had been a gold digger. Her entire life had been about gold digging men for their money in order to supplement her lifestyle, which worked out flawlessly. It worked out flawlessly because while she was gaining all these things and having all this stuff and gaining a reputation as being a whore, it was confirmed when she decided to go step out on her man with the 90-year-old guy, go to I guess it was a Marriott hotel in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So it was long and far away from where he was so that she wouldn't get found out. And you see, my mom was also an alcoholic that blackout drunk. There was a blackout drunk that drank every single night, I believe, of her adult life until the day she died from alcoholism. I believe she had a stroke, and they found her with her tongue hanging out of her mouth, put her in the ICU. She ended up in hospice, and then she ended up passing away. I was able to go to the States the day before she died, go to the hospital where my entire family was circled around the bed where she was, and I got to see a person in a coma crying internally, sobbing internally because she knew that she'd fucked up. And when a person is guilty of something and know they fucked up, that they're probably going to cry about their guilt. Unless they're truly psychopathic, they probably won't cry about anything. They'll just deflect and blame it on somebody else. And most of my life, that's what this woman did. Instead of taking responsibility and said, "Yeah, I used to punch my son in the face. Yeah, I used to get blackout drunk and go cheat on her husband. Yeah, I used to get blackout drunk and ended up in places I didn't even know there were places." So she went to a Marriott hotel and decided to get stinking drunk and hook it up with some young guy, and somehow got locked out of the room, the hotel room, completely naked, and then was so drunk she didn't even know where the room was and didn't have a room key. So she's wandering around the Marriott Hotel in Fort Lauderdale, stark naked in the fucking lobby, going down to the lobby and asking for a room key. Okay? That's the kind of alcoholic that my mother was. Just like that. So you'd think that person would be pretty guilty, feel pretty bad about that. But instead of taking responsibility, an alcoholic will laugh it off and look at the dumb shit I did, but still an active alcoholic is actively abusing people. So anything that would come out of this person's mouth, aside from being a lie most of the time, because my mom was a professional liar, was that to discredit people around her who were doing better than her. That was always her tactic. If people at her work, which she worked at BMW for many years, Rolls-Royce many years, Honda many years, as a service advisor, and a service advisor is there to make commission. The commission salespeople typically lie in order to get people to sign up for services that they don't really need in order to make a profit off of these people who are too dumb to know anything about cars. And that was the experience that I had observing this lady successfully lie to people and lie to men in order to profit. She had a long game on this guy, She never got caught with this guy, by the way. But I was able to find out about this scenario. And she was one of these people that literally had the don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing or whatever philosophy in order to deflect the blame from herself and then give the blame to the person that she was with or the person who was likely not to do the same shit. And when called out on these things, when a person is being shamed, okay, shame is what they want to give. You did this and you did that. Insults. What do people usually say when they lose an argument? They try and insult their character, try and insult their looks, try and insult their past. That's my favorite. Insult my past. I'm good with that because I don't live that way. Insults, shame and insults kind of go hand in hand. Shame is like, shame on you for what you did. Shame on you for feeling this way. Shame on you for having been that person. Shame on you for not being like me. Insults would be, you have small dick energy, that you're broke or you're gay or you're not good enough. It's a number of things that people would use as an insult in order to deflect from the fact that they got problems, especially if you're a person of success. If you have any amount of success and your family has never been successful in much anything, then those family members are going to be your worst fucking critics and your worst enemies, fortunately. But that's just the way it is. When like I said, anytime you have a alcoholic or a drug addict that's out on the street, they're always going to have sort of a wingman with them. Let's see if we can pick one out here on the street, because there's always one passing by here most of the time. Okay? Any? No. Well, let's just say hypothetically that those two people that are walking down the street right there are two alcoholics or two drug addicts that live on the street. Why do they hang out together? Because as they're birds of a feather that are flocking together. Because if you're a failure in life, you want to be around other failures, especially if you have anybody in your life that's of any success. Now, I stopped drinking, like I said, on the 19th of March, 2002. That's a long fucking time to be free from alcohol, especially as fucked up as I was. Yo, bro, I'm okay. Yeah. I'm just giving I'm giving a speech on a topic that everybody probably should know, because these are Machiavellian tactics. Machiavellian tactics that were used on me as a young person, and you young guys need to learn this so it doesn't happen to you. I'm okay with it. I'm very okay with it. In fact, part of it made me happier. It made me a better person, having been fucked over so many times, because now I'm 50 moves ahead of those people. No. I'm streaming on 15 other platforms. Lies. Don't listen to me. Okay. So regardless, if you're going to be on the playback, you're going to have to hear this out, because it goes like this. Shame is sign language. If you don't know what sign language is, let me explain it to you. Sign language is shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. A lot of women use these tactics when they want to have their way or they want to be right. Right on, dude. Interesting name you got. Voy means to get out of here, or I'm leaving. How about that? Did you know that? Did you know that what that means? It means I'm getting out of here. Right on. And oh wow. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second, because I gotta pump this coffee down. What do you say? I'm gonna keep talking. I have no idea, man. I had no idea. I had no idea that you did or didn't know. By the way, I have to have a meeting with the fucking FBI this week. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because someone stole some shit from me. Then they decided to social engineer me, get my personal information, and guess what? Have my identity stolen again. So there's that. And I think I know who the person is, so they're gonna be fucked when they get caught. It's gonna be bad for them. Let me just put this here, and you and I are gonna talk. Even if it's just a one-on-one conversation, it really doesn't matter. I love talking about this stuff because, bro, the balls that people have to dick over people is unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me. Now, let me ask you a question. Okay. Do you know what sign language is? Or did you know that your name means go? I'm leaving or whatever. Tell me that. Because that way I can understand that what you understand. Because only Kevin Samuels fans or people who no. It doesn't matter, man. You see, this has gotten deep. I am impressed by whoever the fuck did this. Because it means I've been hacked, or my house has been hacked, or my Wi-Fi has been hacked, and these people went out of their way to. You're going in Spanish? Cool. Great idea. You're gonna have to learn anyway. I mean, I think everybody should learn at least another language or two. You might have to learn Mandarin or Russian soon, hopefully not. Yeah. Okay. So it's just me. I'm gonna give you guys a little just the whole story. Because it's whacked. I can't believe someone would go out of their way to do this to me. But now that I look back and I realize people that are jealous are going to do anything they can to steal. They're going to try and steal from us. Especially if you're a foreigner and you've been around Americans, they're going to be jealous of you. They're jealous of your accent. They're jealous of your lifestyle. They're jealous of a lot of things because you know that we don't care about money. You know that we're not impressed by people who show off stuff and show their thing. Tell me story. Tell me about that story. Yes, I know. A lot. Okay. This is a good story because this is about somebody that social engineered me in order to figure out, what I make as far as money for whatever reason. I mean, come on, I live in an abandoned castle. There's nothing really to be jealous of. It's not that fancy. But like I said, I gotta fire up this coffee because if I don't, not gonna want to. So shame was the first part that I got from my own family. I was adopted, so they have all these things to when you got family that are real kids, and then you're the adopted kid. When my grandfather passed away, he left an inheritance to my dad. And I got nothing from that. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything because he really didn't like me that much. And I never understood why. Well, I come to find out that my dad was pretty jealous of me. And I never could figure it out. Now, as an adult, I realized that most of the people that were in my family were just dumb rednecks. They were just dumb. They weren't very smart. They couldn't speak other languages. They had never been outside of their zone. They'd never left their colonies before. And they were just dumb rednecks. I mean, we would call them gopniks or whatever, but for the longest time, I never could understand why I was not included in their pictures. Like they would take pictures of people together and they were like, you over there. I never could understand why. Why would you do that to somebody? And then when I went to file a patent, you guys know I invent things. And I was looking to do like a formula for something that was pretty good. And so I contacted one of my dad's old attorneys because he's like big shot, like Boca Raton guy who deals in trademarks and patents. So I was like, great. I mean, this is fantastic. I'll go call this guy. And he was only going to charge me like, $80 to file it. And then the patent would have been mine, which was a lot more. So I call him and he says, wow, that's incredible that you've come this far. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, your dad told me, I got this real problem with him. And I was like, with me? With me. I've been in that military all these years. I don't understand what could you possibly be talking about. He's only got to be talking about my brother because my brother's a drug addict. He's the one on heroin and shoots cocaine and stuff. I mean, I don't do drugs. And I've been sober for all these years, so I don't understand what you're even talking about. And so I brought it to their attention. I was like, I talked to your attorney. And he kind of put it out there that all these years that my own adopted father had a real resentment against me. And I could never figure out why. Well, now I do, because I was a pain in the ass. I was a pain in the ass as a kid. And, these are not Slavs at all. These are just dirtbag Americans or Scottish people that apparently were awesome at simping and said, hey, look at this single mother. I think you're hot and you give good head. I think I'll marry you. And as a consequence, and you essentially have a fucking kid, I'll become that kid's dad. Only to have their own kid together. And then after that, it was a matter of abandonment. So I dealt with a lot of abandonment issues when I was a young kid. A lot of abandonment issues. Because I didn't feel like I fit in. I did not belong in the United States, period. I do not like being around the people that I was forced into being around. They criticized me a lot, but I was able to read better. I was able to understand and learn math better. I studied math. I studied science. I studied history. I really loved history. And they wanted to put me into a special program for smart kids. But at the same time, those two parents were getting divorced. So they put me into another program for kids with behavioral problems. So now I'm reflecting back on all this. I had EEGs done. I've had IQ tests and everything, and which is all well and good, all very important when you're trying to determine if your kid is a dummy or not, because I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with me, because I just wasn't theirs. When they had their own kid, it was a matter of going, and they always had this like competition with me, and I was bigger. And of course, when a bigger brother is bullying the smaller brother, there's going to be some conflict. But you see, the thing is that regardless if it was right or wrong, they always took the other kid's side, period, because that's their children. Okay, do you have a clue who your biological parents are? Yes, I fucking found them. And so Roman was my father. Roman was my father. No. I'm not questioning that. I'm expressing the story as if I was writing a book of 20 years ago. So like I said, none of this is now. And I'm only saying this as a message to guys who may have gone through these experiences with adoptive parents. There were a lot of children stolen from Serbia during the 80s. There were a lot of children stolen from all of the Yugoslavia during the 1970s and 80s. If you didn't know this, they were stolen, sent to Germany, sent to England, sent to the United States. Don't know why. I don't know. I was never sex slaved or anything like that, so I'm not going to play victim when I wasn't. And I'm not exactly the first one leaving the campus either. So hang on one second while I go get the creamer. One of the things that Westerners do when they adopt kids is they want Western values on their kids. It doesn't matter if your children are adopted in Africa or Croatia or or Belarus. They don't want you to have Eastern European values. They don't want you to practice Orthodox. All they want you to do is worship money and things, because that's typically what a lot of Americans do, and that is love things and use people instead of using things and loving people. Okay. And it's a weird thing, especially for a guy who does his very best to try and love people. All right. Now, I'm not the nicest guy in the world. I don't look like a nice person. And a lot of people are afraid of me because I look serious. No, I said I look Serbian. I don't look serious. So if anybody has a problem with anybody from Eastern Europe or Europe and you engage with them and they look serious all the time, that's just how our face is. It's nothing personal. That's how we are. Now, I'm not special by any means. Grew up in a nice part of a really nice part of town where there were tons of people who had money that I didn't have. And one of the first pieces of evidence that I got that my father didn't like me. Well, of course you do. We're probably cousins. I don't know. Maybe you're my son and you're pretending to be another Serb. I wish my son would call me. Hell, I would love for my son to call me. Did you know that the tactics that I'm talking about were used and deployed on me by my son's mother? Shame, insults, guilt, and need to be right. And it was all lies. It was hilarious because I was in the war not once but twice. And so when he says that, I don't know, I didn't have a superhero career in the military by any stretch. It was very, very normal. But she told him that I got kicked out of the military. That's not possible because I never did anything wrong in the military. In fact, I had good conduct medals the entire time I was in the military with Oakley Clusters and everything else, leadership position. I was on my way to command staff during the military. But when you go to war and you come back and you fall apart and get divorced and all that jazz, shit happens. Shit goes sideways quick. But I understand why. If I was a piece of shit and I was a liar and a cheater, with my wife at the time, I was just going to be the exact same thing with every relationship following because I didn't grow up with a father. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Hold on one second. I'll throw it in there and I'll let you talk. How about that? Hang on one second. I will pull it up. Absolutely, man. Okay. One sec. I gotta find it because. Hang on, man. So shame, insults, guilt, and they need to be right. Shame. Let me see. Guests. Invite guests. Copy the link. Close that shit out. Go to YouTube. One second. Go to YouTube. Jump into my stream. Where in the hell am I? Uh-oh. I'm in the wrong place. Hang on one second. I know. Let's take a look. You see this StreamYard thing, man. It's user friendly. There you go. Right there. Now I'm gonna ask again. Am I sideways or am I vertical? Because I don't know. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Do you want to speak German or you want English? Doesn't matter to me. Hang on, man. What's up,
You,
Seth? How are you?
Seth? Oh yeah. My name. No, yeah, I'm actually Seth. I don't like it. I don't like it when it's pronounced Seth, but
Sit. Okay.
Seth.
Sit.
Yeah. But yeah, Voy's okay. And so, what's your name, bro?
William.
William. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you, bro. Yeah. And so I like your story, dude. Yeah. And it's not that I don't want to talk. I want to hear a story, but just listening to it, like, because otherwise I have to type in chat, and I think this is way more
By all
comfortable.
means. Where are you now?
I'm in the Netherlands.
Ah.
Yeah.
And what are you doing up in the Netherlands?
Um, uh, Watching the world destruct itself. Yeah, that's what I'm doing for quite a while.
It's been a long time. Been a
Yeah.
long time. It used to be so nice. I used to stop over, go to Maastricht a lot, and go up to Rembrandt Square occasionally. Made a mistake of buying Rotterdam scarves and walking around like an idiot. Ajax! Can people scream at me like it was
Oh,
like?
you actually are with Feyenoord against Ajax, right? Rather than okay, I
And
get it. Yeah.
so I was a lad. I didn't know any better because I thought I just picked the coolest one.
And you did right, dude. I mean, I was never a football fan, and I never liked the soccer games or the whole idolization of a team. But I was like, everybody was like Ajax, Amsterdam. I said, no, I don't know why, but I just like Rotterdam, dude. And I didn't even know why. But you
The
had the
girls
same.
are the girls are beautiful there. They're really tall, like crazy tall.
Mhm.
But that's it.
We got some beautiful girls here in the Netherlands, dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
we do.
no doubt. So okay, so this is quite a bit of a story. It's a good story.
Yeah, I want to hear more of it. So I'm gonna shut up a bit because yeah, I'm very much into the story.
It's a good one. It's extraordinarily good, especially when I reflect back on it because I don't really have much to like. I have no complaints. I'm grateful that I went through the things I
You're
did.
living in a castle, right? That's what you said.
Oh yeah. I live in an ancient well, it's a palace actually. It's a palace that's got part of a star fort. It's an ancient
Wow.
structure from prior
And you
to
and you're dressed appropriately, right? With like a sheepskin, like, or
yeah,
you
yeah.
you need that inside of a palace or
It's
a
cold.
castle.
It's crazy
It's
how
usually
cold it
very
is.
cold, you know. You
Freezing
can't keep
cold.
that place heated.
The
It's
walls
unbelievable.
are the walls are a meter or so thick.
Yeah.
Now they this
That's rich, dude. That's
it
rich.
is it is it is, and how I got it is a miracle. And for what I pay, it's not bad because it needs to be renovated. We dug out six or seven dump trucks of just pure solid earth down below. Have you seen the videos of it?
No, I've seen you in some panels here and there, or maybe in one or two panels,
Hmm.
and I think I clicked your link or something. I don't know.
Well, I
Some.
love dogs. I love dogs. And
Mm.
so everywhere I've lived, I've always had yards and things like that. But one of my dogs died and it just broke my heart. So I said, from this point on, any place I'm going to live is going to have enough space, but it's going to be closed in so the dogs don't get out and get hit by our car or something like that. Because I just love dogs.
I love ducks.
Ducks,
Ducks.
really?
Yeah.
I learned that ducks are excellent at gardening. When you have a garden and it has all weeds, they eat all of the weeds.
Hmm.
And
Well, I don't. I think that is true. Yeah, and but just like I like dogs too, but I just don't like to have a dog because I live on the seventh floor. So And
We have two gonzos, which
and I
are
always thought it was stupid for people that live in flat buildings for them to have dogs. Even if it's a lab dog, well, a
Mhm.
lab dog I can understand.
Yeah.
But it's anything that's larger than like a mid-sized schnauzer in a.
Mhm.
I think that's weird. Those should be outside, dude. And even those schnauzers, also, even if it's like the size of a poodle, that shouldn't be inside. That also wants to go outside. That kind of dog. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
like dogs. I like dogs, and that's why I don't have one. It's because that's why I don't own one.
Well, part of what I do is I rescue them. So if there's a dog that's down in the sewer, I got to go down in there and get them.
Yeah.
And so one here, so we have these ancient well, canal systems. You understand canal systems? Well,
Yeah.
in Mexico we have smaller, the same things. All right. You know that there's a civilization down below our feet down here. So all these caves are still here, but they reutilize the cave systems as storm drains. And you can go down there and you see all this really excellent like stonework. That why is this down here? This is supposed to be a sewer. So I'll show you one of the dogs that I saved when he was a little big puppy like this. It was a rainstorm, and there's a call that there's a dog down there, and all these people are afraid. I don't know if you knew this or not, but as a civilization that we have here, the culture is known to be very masculine and all that stuff. It's not anymore. Mexico is a very feminized country, just like the United States. It has a lot of weak dudes. Here, the guys are equally, if not worse. A lot of patsies, a lot of simps, and a lot of people who just worship stuff and money.
Yeah,
That's
or
all they
anything
care.
or anything that might be just above that, or have the appearance to be just a bit more than that, but essentially that's not even, that's yeah. It used to be, yeah. I know what you're saying, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the same here. I mean, we've been infiltrated in the Netherlands since forever, because
Mhm.
we're such a small country, right? We're actually just this fucking tiny island, and yeah, but we're thriving still, even with all the corruption and all the immigration.
Uh-huh.
Still we need somehow the Dutch, know how to train the Jews in a way. They're like, okay, so you have this worldly power and everything. Okay, so we're gonna have to work with you. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah, by all means.
so,
You play
so
the game.
somehow these Dutch people have gotten to this immigration policy, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna allow this immigration, but because there's this forced immigration going on, right? Lately, I mean, that's been going on for 70 years in my country, and but the way it's going now in Ireland, I'm like, wow, man. I mean, this is the Kalergi plan in full effect, right? It's so weird, dude.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
I'm taken back a little bit because I grew up in a town called Kaiserslautern.
Where's that?
I grew up with the Americans in Germany.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. So when a lot of and myself
Oh, so next to American Air Force Base,
right
or
there, 100,000 Americans were there. So I grew up in that culture. It's where
wow.
I learned all my bad habits. That's where I learned to idolize people. That's where I learned how to be.
We have a lot in common because I grew up like next to an American Air Force Base too. A lot
Oh,
smaller, but yeah.
which one?
Soesterberg.
It must be
Yeah,
closed.
it's closed since 1995, and that's
Uh,
so that's when the chemtrails started. Because
yeah.
until 1995 there was a no-fly zone. That reached until exactly until Schiphol. One of the largest airports in the world. So there was this big no-fly zone next to Schiphol, and I lived in that no-fly zone. The only thing I heard flying above me was like every Sunday there would be two F-16s that would do, you know, and then it was done. You know, and it was just that's what it was. So yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt your story, but you know,
No, no, it's good that we're talking like this because it's cool to see that you see what I see, and the Americans never see that stuff.
yeah,
So I grew up in that culture of people who came to Germany for 2 years or 4 years, and they either left the country with a cuckoo clock or a kid. And so in
yeah.
my case, I left.
What is the Cuckoo Club? I
I
don't know
actually
what.
had the kid.
Oh,
I had the kid. So my wife at the time was Swiss, and she had a sister, a twin sister that lived in Florida. And she was still a young girl, probably 20 something years old, and saw her sister get boob implants. Now, this is where the story starts. She saw her sister get boob implants, get lip injections, and had a rich boyfriend. And he wasn't a good looking guy at all. He was balding and short guy, but he was an American guy, had tons of money. So she flew back to the States with the baby and then suddenly lost her passport. How convenient. So this is where it began. 3 months later, I got a message that she was seeing somebody else. And so I for one, filed divorce for her, and then she filed divorce on me. And so I was so, just pissed off about it that I didn't even look through the papers. I didn't even read it. I just signed it, saw that I had no obligations for alimony or anything like that. And child support was pending for a family court. So in family court, see, the Americans don't use the judicial system like in Europe. They have magistrates, which are just glorified lawyers, and they brought in two other lawyers from the state of Florida, the Department of
well,
Revenue.
that's pretty much how it goes here too. By the way,
It's definitely
under
evolved.
another name, but
It's evolved into it. So the state actually sent two lawyers to help my ex-wife to get child support from me. And the result was she stayed in Florida. She was incompetent. She couldn't read. She was deaf in one ear and barely passed through high school. But I only married her because she had nice boobs and she wore slutty clothes. Because that's what I learned women were about. I only assumed that I mean, I
yeah,
could have gone anywhere. I could have picked a girl out of Rembrandt Square if I wanted to,
yeah.
and married her because she was good looking. I didn't look to the mind. I didn't look to the heart. I didn't look to values because Americans are raised completely different to idolize things and put them on the
No,
god
I
status.
get that. I mean, I was confronted with that because my mom was how do you say this exchange student exchange programs, right? And so she applied for that, and so we had this American coming to live with us for a couple of months, and this Israeli guy living with us for a week. Like, okay, so you apply for this program. First one is an American, and the other one is an Israeli. But just leave it at it. But this American girl that stepped into our house, like she just stepped into our house. We said, "Welcome to our house," and she just walked in. First thing she did was walk to the fucking fridge. She
How
opened.
convenient.
No, I'm not kidding you guys. I mean, it's like, and she opened it. Don't you have any Coca-Cola? You don't have any Coke? And we were like, why the fuck do you walk to our fridge? And we said,
Yeah,
no, we don't have any Coca-Cola. We might do that on the weekends, but surely not on the week.
it's facts.
She looked so disappointed. So that was as a child, seeing America being praised like, oh, the land of the free and the brave and the best commercials and films and whatever. Somebody coming from that country walking into your house and being totally unappropriate.
Oh yeah. The
Weird.
entitlement is real. And
Yeah.
I love that entitlement. I wanted that what they had. I wanted what they had because they had nice clothes. They had drove, big American cars, big trucks, and everything. And I was like, I only had one pair of boots that I had from sheep, that were waterproof, homemade boots. And all the kids made fun of me because I had these homemade boots. They're like moccasins, they go up
But they were the
because
best. But they were actually quality boots, right?
I bought my first pair of tennis shoes, because, like I said, I was around all these American kids that had Pumas and Nikes and Adidas, and I have just wanted what they had because I was so
I
calm.
never bought any of those brands, dude. But you actually grew up in actually homemade boots. Wow.
Yeah. So I have no complaints. There was good. My grandmother was a lovely, lovely bird. She was a gem of a person that always thought about me. Never understood why her husband didn't like me. He was deaf. He was originally this is my adopted parents, by the way. Adopted grandparents were Scottish, and so he was initially part of the banking system, and he had his own money and he retired. These were people that were in their 70s when I was about 2 years old. So, and they lived it up until they were 90. And I was
Wow.
always respectful, but they, of course, my adopted father had his own son, and they loved him. And I was clearly not part of that, but she was a good lady.
No, but they had so much goodness in their hearts
Mhm.
that they wanted to share their wealth, because they felt that they could do it. And it's quite a
Mhm.
thing, if you're like that old and still will be able to do that, you
Yeah,
know.
but it was
Um,
my
when I look at
grandmother.
you and hear you, I mean, they actually did quite a good job, I think,
Grandmother did. Grandfather, he made it clear that I was not related to him. He didn't like he didn't like me. There's a number of reasons why, because I was a pain in the ass. Also I was smart because
Smart
these were
people are a pain in the ass, dude. That's just how it is. Yeah.
smart kids are largely a pain in the ass. Even my own son, who, when I talk to my phone, he speaks perfect English. Perfect. He's Turkish. Don't ask me. It was a one night stand. It lasted 2 years. It was terrible. Um, so
Those
again,
Turkish women, dude. I mean, if you go for the looks, I know
yeah,
you will.
yeah, that's the only reason why I went with them.
Those are just like vixens. How can
Yeah,
you?
woo,
It's like, what? Ah,
yeah, especially if they've been around Americans, and that's what happened with this girl. This girl was married to an American, had a baby with an American, and when I met her, she was a baby mama, and she said she needed somebody to help find her ex-husband, who was a military guy. So of course, I'm the simp that I was, and
I'm
she
gonna hunt him together with you. We're gonna
I
fight.
helped her. I helped her find him, and he was in a place called Pine Bluffs, Arkansas. His name is Gerald Swigerts. Good guy. He was a good guy because after all this time, I talked to him after these years later, and I said, Gerald, that girl that you were married to, I was the guy who was after you. And he's like, what? Oh, Jesus. And I said, that kid that you had with her is not yours. She told me that she fucked around in you and got pregnant and then blamed you for it so that you would sign the birth certificate. I still don't know to this day if my own kid is my own, because he doesn't look anything like me. I mean, he's a good looking kid, but he doesn't look anything like me. I've got a musical gene, that's for sure. My brothers and sisters that I discovered I had.
Well,
Um,
that might happen, that a child of yours does look more like well, like your sister actually, or like your brother, that doesn't look like you at all, but then again looks like your grandmother or grandfather, to get, I
well,
I
he,
I then again, I mean, me and my sister, we are 5.5 years apart, but we look exactly. I look like the female. She looks like the female version of me, and she looks like the like the female. No, yeah. Well, we look like female and male versions of one thing. It's like, yeah, we look very much alike. But if your son doesn't look like you, I mean, yeah.
Not at all. Not he's dark skin, dark eyes, dark hair, purely Turkish. He looks Turkish.
Uh-huh.
But there's good looking people. Period. They're good looking, not the most ethical people in the world, but definitely good looking. Good cooks too. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
I give them
I
that.
mean,
They get good looks and good cooks, but other than that, they'll stab your ass in a minute.
they have good cohesion, amongst Turks too. I mean, the family structure in that culture is very strong, and
Yeah,
that's something to appreciate,
yeah.
from a distance. The way I see it, it's like, wow, that's quite a tight game you're running there, right?
Hmm.
I mean, Turkish culture is very big in the Netherlands,
Hmm.
maybe because of that reason. Same goes for the Moroccan culture. They're even worse. They're just liars, dude. They're just liars. I mean, Turks are traitors, but Moroccans are just liars.
Yeah,
They
they
will.
do.
I mean, they will lie with a knife on their throat. They will still lie to you, dude.
Yeah,
No, they will just keep on lying. A Turk won't do that. A Turk will say, no, 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 no. Don't put it on my throat. No, no, no. No, here's the deal. Here, I give you 1,000. But no, yeah, I've been around those cultures.
well, her brother was in prison in Germany for kidnapping, extortion, robbery, grape, a number of things. He was in prison for 5 years in Germany, and because the laws there is that you serve half the time in Germany and then they send you back to Turkey. And what he did was flew back to Turkey, and then he flew to the Netherlands and he passed the border and he came right back. Came right back. So this time when I went to see him in prison, and this is what we were doing. She would take me to this prison. We would sit there for hours and waiting in the line and go see this guy. And they would just the whole time, and she's slipping him money in little squares, And if you remember, the Deutschmarks back in the old days were gigantic like this, like
Yeah,
1,000
yeah.
mark trying. So we were sending, like slipping little hundreds and, 500 or whatever it was at the time. And then she slipped him a SIM card so he could use a phone in the jail to text his wife and daughter and everything. And so I didn't pay any attention. I didn't realize that this whole entire family was criminal. They were criminals. They were, let's see, big gamblers. They love to play cards, in those Turkish tea houses. They just play cards and
Yeah, I mean, I know. I've seen it. Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you how deep I've seen it because yeah, I know.
I know them intimately. So now knowing all of this now that I see, I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm trapped. She started to use sign language on me. The shame, insults, guilt, and always needed to be right, so that she would, because I was so weak at the time, I didn't know any better. I was simping in my face off because
Yeah,
I wanted that pussy.
yeah, I get it.
Simply, just wanted that ass. That's all I cared
Yeah,
about.
you were like, I don't know what age, but like 25, 26, somewhere
Yeah,
that.
my head was fully up my ass,
Yeah,
and
of
I didn't know
course.
any better. Plus, she needed me. You know how Sims are when they need a girl will go out of her way to be
Yeah, I mean,
exceptionally.
the narcissistic supply, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly, it's a Machiavellian move, and she was trained by somebody to do this. I don't know who trained her, but she spoke
Maybe
perfect
your
English.
father. Maybe your father.
Well, her father was definitely the one that
Dude,
fucked her up.
I've seen scenes that make me say that. Well, I didn't see them, but I sensed them and I smelt them, and I later on I got affirmed, even through magic. What do you know? Because that's what they're doing.
What do you mean by magic?
Turkish people are big into magic, since forever. So
She
all
talks about
kinds.
the jinn, the
All
jinn.
kinds. They don't even call it magic anymore. It's just to them, it's just something you do.
Wow, kind of like here in Mexico, they use brujas. They have witches here too, and apparently it works on people. I look
It
at it
does.
for what.
Dude, I've seen it up close and I've experienced it and I've been fooled. I've been tricked. I mean, I was
Since
born too. I was born too. And I was like, oh shit, now I know what you meant. I just misunderstood it.
Mhm.
Now I know what you meant.
Well, now that it's been a while, I've been able to look back and go, oh my God, I was tricked. I was hustled. I was so
Yeah.
dumb. I could have saved so much money. It was unbelievable how much money I wasted. So I had 18 years of child support with this kid. 22 years later, he contacts me on Facebook because for years I've been looking for his name, and he has one of those typical like Turkish names, but she would transpose his name in documents so that he couldn't be found. He's pretty clever.
Yeah.
And so she would transpose his first name with his middle name, and then he had another last name from
Yeah.
because I never
She wouldn't call him John Jackson, but Jack Johnson. Right.
right. So she reversed everything, so I would never be able to find him.
Yeah.
I put a message out. This is prior to the internet being as it is, to the Kaiserslautern military community, because they're very, very big on
Yeah.
helping you know the Americans to communicate with their families back home. And so when I put a thing in the newspaper there, I said that my ex had taken my son and I was looking for him and everything else. And years go by. Now when Facebook comes out, I look for his name until it was 16 years old. He said that he looked for me and he saw me on YouTube because I was a YouTuber back in Colombia, but never contacted me, never made an effort to reach out to me or anything. So I was like, all right. When I talked to him on the phone, he's like, yeah, I saw you when you were 16. Well, why didn't you try and contact me? Well, because I thought you were an asshole. Well, yeah, but that doesn't justify anything. So all this time you've known I've been here. You could have contacted me, could have known what really happened. Because you know how things are when you break up with somebody, it's always one-sided. It's always the one side. And they train
Usually.
these kids at an early age to believe everything that you say. It's true. They believe every single thing. When you got a kid from ages, 0 to 12 years old, everything that you tell them, they believe.
Well, 7 years old.
Is it
Well,
7?
yeah. In my culture, at 7 years old, they start doubting things. They start looking at you like, "Are really?" So they they really become. That's more or less when they are um, starting to develop. That's why it's so. That's why children are so delicate, right? That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, I mean, I think that I've gotten um, a blessed education and upbringing, because yeah, I was able to say no or like, really, really. And I was even back in the 70s, it was even promoted to ask why all the time, even by your teachers. If you don't understand us, ask why all the time, ask why. That's what they said in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
and in the early 80s. So I was raised that way, actually. And
What
it was
time is
not,
it? What time is it in the Netherlands right now?
it's, what is it? 13:33,
All right.
13:53.
So you're good in the afternoon. It's almost 7 here in
Yeah.
Mexico. You know what's odd is that the the education system now in where I'm in Mexico is on paper, it looks amazing. Like,
Yeah.
wow, 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 wow. I am impressed. But then the results of the kids that come out are precisely what we see in the inner cities of the United States, where they
Really?
just push the kids through
So it's just
rather
as bad.
than it is extremely bad because I get recruits that come here to the academy, to the fire academy, and they're preparing to go into the fire department. So I have to teach them the rules and regulations, and then I have to get them in shape if they're not in shape. Now I have to teach them the lingo, make them study and learn all these things. And I get kids that are 18 years old that don't know how to use a drill. They don't know how to change a drill bit on a drill. They don't know how to use tools. And I'm like, don't you live with your father? And they're like, well, yeah. And I get people reading technical manuals. It's like pulling teeth, getting them to read and getting them to do any kind of math. And they lie about everything. They
Well,
lie and lie and lie
and
about
it's very
everything.
easy. It's very easy, actually. There's this one metaphor that I'm going to use because mm, I know this story, and it's a true story. So there was this woman that started living in Slovenia because the climate was just her climate for was just good for her and her husband, right? So they started living in Slovenia, and first job they got was a bus driver. So she got to um, drive the school bus, and these children were only making problems and stealing each other's candy and bullying each other. And she came to the conclusion, like, what the fuck's happening here? And she just said, you stop, you all be quiet. And then she said, well, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna let them make their own rules up, because everybody understands, the children understand best, that this is a situation that you can't keep. It's unholdable. You can't attain that situation. And so they all agreed, like, this is fucked up. Nobody wants this. So, and let them make their own rules. Make up your own rules, and appoint one or two children to keep the rest to those rules. And things worked out just like that, within a day. No more candy stealing, no more bullying, nothing. It's very easy.
I've had that conversion where I was raised to, well, I was raised to observe what other people are doing and copy what they do.
Yeah.
And it comes from, I think, a societal pressure to, like they say in the States, is to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Which means to,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I want what they have because I don't have it. Keep up the appearances. And here, keeping up appearances it's necessary to steal. These people make $3 a day. So when they see a guy like myself come around that drives a car like that and is in charge of this and has these people around, so they automatically assume that you're rich, which works if your status helps you, but it's also
you dress
bad
like
because,
a pimp. You dress like a pimp. You dress like
yeah,
a pimp, and you look like somebody that uses. I know you said you don't, so I believe you. But
yeah, absolutely.
because I got the same face, dude. Even when I was 13 or 14 years old, I looked like a heroin user. I was like, and nobody told me anything, but
No.
people always suspected it, like probably a heroin drug addict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I also hang out with people, that might do that.
Mm-hmm.
I hang out with all kind of people.
I have insomnia. I have insomnia really, really bad.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's every night for years and years and years. I've never been able to sleep past probably at the most 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It worked good for the military, but now I've been a civilian for a while and I get up just as early and I just cannot stay asleep. I'm wide awake, sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just can't go back to sleep. It's impossible.
I remember that as a child, mainly. Like I that's why the radio. I got this radio, and I was just listening to the radio, till 2, 3 in the morning. So I heard all the good music. That yeah.
What kind of music did you grow up with? What kind of music did you listen to?
Radio Veronica. So there was like late 70s, early 80s. So kind of romantic disco. Yeah, I think that's the best description. Rock, you
Hmm.
know, rock ballads. I think it was a very romantic period, dude.
A
Like
great time to be alive.
late 70s, early 80s. I mean, yeah, the music was very romantic. It was all about sexiness, and well, it actually came from sexiness because it was all about sex, like rock and roll and the hippies. And I think society got sick of it, and they wanted to romanticize sex a bit more, and so it got a bit more gooey, a bit more fluid, and musical. And I think that was like the yeah, that's what glued me to the radio, dude. Yeah.
Did you have a musical background, or did you just like you're a fan?
Um, no, I can't play any musical instrument. I can't. I did enjoy lyrics and singing. I was never actually good at. I do have a talent for it, but I
You
never.
sing, huh?
I did sing. I th- I came to the conclusion that I was more of a poet. I was not so much of a band person. I didn't like the band vibe,
Oh, I
but
love
I did
band.
like the vibe of create. I spent it hours, nights, days with my friend, with my best friend at the time. Creating songs. Me just thinking about lyrics, writing them up, and and we actually made an album. Um, well, no, we were thinking about an album, right? For Collected. Of course, this is what we did when I was 20 years old. But we never performed. We never made a band. The two of us joined some other bands, and I was nah.
Didn't have that vibe.
Everybody. What I remember of joining bands, and everybody always wanted to turn up their volume, and I was like, "Come on, guys, just stop that fucking stupid ego game on the volume button." I was like, "It's so childish." I had to step out. I was like, "Is this?" Yeah, it's everywhere. Everywhere, it's the fucking same. And so I actually enjoyed more of the jams than actual bands because jams were just about, you know,
Jamming out.
yeah,
I
hitting
love
hitting
jamming
that
out.
one note, even if it was just that one note or just one bar for that evening. But
Right.
sometimes you hit like 20 bars or like a whole fucking evening of vibe. And yeah, so
I
I
was in,
enjoy.
I was in opera.
Oh wow,
Yeah, I sang in the opera. I've been all over the world doing opera. Ended up in Palm Beach Opera. I did about 25 operas in my whole time.
wow.
Started off as a lackey, which is like extra.
Uh-huh.
And the backstory is that my brother was with a girl who was with the Miami Ballet, and they had one scene in this opera, and I just happened to be going to the States, and she says, "I broke up with your brother, but I got a problem. I need somebody who knows how to dance." So she knows I know how to sing and dance, do all these things.
Yeah.
And so she says, "Can you do it for me?" Like, I don't know. Opera sounds kind of gay, but my uncle is a professional opera singer. He's like Shakira level opera, famous in the opera.
Mhm.
His name is Peter Volpe. He basically took me under his wing after that, and he turned out to be the most awesome guy. He's a professor for opera now. He started the Opera Society here in Mexico City. The guy's been like I said, he is at that level where he doesn't have anybody to impress because his voice is so amazing. It's deep. It's really, really a bass.
Wow.
And so I did my first opera. It was called Tales of Hoffman, and all I basically had to do was dress up like George Washington, where I had the white wig and I'm wearing this suit.
Of
They
all
paint my
people.
they
Of
paint my
all
face up. Got the powder wig on, and I'm doing this. It's just basically just ballroom dancing. It was pretty easy, and they paid me for it, and I was like, yeah, money. I didn't realize that I was with all these rock stars in the opera,
Hmm.
and the rock stars in that era of the
Are you,
opera.
You totally blend in. You totally blend in.
Totally, yeah, you fit right in because it is a what can I say? It's 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 a fun place to be. That's just needless to say. And when you're the only dude that likes women in the choir,
It's even better.
it's way better. No competition. So after, I guess it was up 5 years of with those opera companies, I got in a bit out of hand with the womanizing, and I was not invited back to come to the opera in Palm Beach anymore, which is okay because I don't really care for going to Florida.
Making a whole career out of it,
No,
but
it's just a hobby.
nice
It's just for
experience.
fun.
It's a
I just
nice
wanted to
experience.
go out there, but you've never lived until you've been the bad guy and you've had 3,000 people boo you, okay? Because you're the fucking bad guy. I've been an executioner. I've been a guard for the pharaoh. I have been a samurai.
And you lived it out. You
Lived
actually
it
lived
out, and I'm still living it out. Now I'm in one of these beautiful castles that when you're on stage, this is so interesting you say that. I worked with the stagehands and I watched as they made a theater turn into a palace over like this.
Yeah.
And they taught me how to change clothes, get the beard on, get the hair. Maybe I had to wear a hat or something and a shield or something like that, or a sword or a spear, and how to do it like this quickly because you can't miss a scene.
Yeah.
So I watched as the stagehands changed the scenes from being a castle to being like a Japanese garden to being like an orgy to a war scene and with dead people everywhere in seconds. And so when we bought the castle, I was, my wife is Mexican. She's not used to people like us that can, change our look over like this.
Yeah.
So I got good at putting on these
Dressing up.
small, dressing up basically.
Dude,
But
that's one of the best collections that I mean, I like clothes, and I have a hard time throwing away, good articles. I like them. I'm not gonna throw them away because they're out of fashion now. Yeah,
yeah,
clothing is a very important. I mean, that's part of the reason why I clicked the link, because it's an impressive coat that you're wearing, dude. Especially if you live in a palace, you should
mhm.
wear that. You should wear that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's what's cool about this, but I mean, besides the fact that it's big, what it is that it's just me and her and our dogs. And we have classes every single day in the morning at 10 a.m. And we have classes in the afternoon for the kids.
Hmm.
So when the kids come, they're just little bitty kids that don't know anything at all. They have no fathers. An 87% fatherless home rate here in Mexico, where I live. It's the highest rate of single mothers here in this colony than in anywhere else in Mexico.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And these are not poor people. These are middle class people. So when the kids come, they see this big masculine guy. I was a professional bodybuilder before, so they were really impressed with the way I looked. Like you said before, they don't look to the intelligence; they look to
Yeah.
the status that muscles give you. They see the car,
Yeah,
they
and,
think,
and that was actually very appropriate for you because you also were into that, right? That's
oh,
yeah.
absolutely. It's just it's so self-centered and egotistical. Uh, but that's just the
External.
way.
It's not even
It's all
egotistical.
external.
It's external, right?
It
Yeah.
is. It is. I
Not to
went
say,
back to my.
not to
I went
say
back.
superficial.
I went back to my Orthodox roots, though.
Yeah.
And I went back to my Orthodox roots because things just seemed to be a little too evil for me in the world to recognize it as just humans doing this stuff. And so now what I see happening in Europe is that as the German farmers are rejecting the tax and the Dutch farmers are rejecting the tax, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is happening to the Kuchenhof? And if it's all fucked up now, or if it's I don't know, because like I said, I haven't been there since
How many years was it since you've been there?
2005.
Uh-huh. Wow, yeah, that's almost 20 years ago, dude.
Yep,
Wow.
it's a long time. And I was supposed to come back because the prior to all this crisis shit, I was gonna do firefighter classes to certify firefighters all over Europe and do an interchange, like the student exchange program. That's what we do here. When a guy comes here from another town, we train him and then we send him to another town, and then they send somebody to us. But now the whole world's on fire here. As a matter of fact, 2 days ago, one of the commanders in this town where the other house where I have is, they killed 2 firefighters. The cartel killed 2 firefighters. So I'm staying way the fuck out of there until it's a red zone. That means don't go there. And especially with the car I'm driving, because they're targeting military, National Guard, municipal police, firefighter, anybody that's involved with the government at all, because there's a conflict between somebody in the government there and the cartel over there. And so like I said, I'm non-government. Not going to say I'm purely anarchistic, but I don't have any trust in any government. I don't believe anything that they say, because they've been lied to. We donated 1 million pesos, about $50,000 worth of equipment, to the local fire department here,
And
so that I could.
that's the reason why they want to take, the ones that, in their view, are going rogue. They want to take them out and replace them with the new fucking idiots that they can find everywhere.
They definitely did
So-
that. They
And
stalled.
so that's their game now, right? I mean, they even putting it out in the open, saying we need to attract more people that are delusional, and they're even putting that out there. People with psychiatric problems. We don't only need to have gay people and transgender people. We also need to, for the best diversity, you need to employ stupid people and insane people, because that is what diversity is about. And so that's how insane this world is now. Yeah.
Basically, there's been a number of times, even in Kuwait. I was in Kuwait for a long time. In Kuwait,
How old are you?
pardon me?
What's your age?
I'm 52.
Wow, exactly. Yeah, me too.
So I'm 52. So in Kuwait, this is actually during the war, by the way. So in Kuwait, I got to observe not the American leadership, not the Kuwaiti leadership, but the other all the branches of all the services from all these countries were in one particular area, and their level of incompetence at the leadership level was almost comical, because why on earth? I'm an uneducated moron here. I don't know my ass from a hole in the ground. But why is this man in charge of all these people that doesn't speak more than one language? Why is this person doesn't know anything about engineering?
If he doesn't speak more than one language, why doesn't he have a talk? How do you say, a translator with him?
It's amazing. So I'm listening and observing, and I'm seeing things that are clearly dangerous for all the troops. It's almost as if it was deliberate.
Yeah.
Why would you allow this to breach security? I just didn't make any sense to me. And as I gotten older and I've been out of the military for a while, I know that a lot of this was a setup. And I was not in a position to call anything out back then. And I'm not going to do anything now, because we all see it for what it is. Everything has been, we have passed over into this new realm where every single person that I know says that their eyes are slightly blurry, that they hear a ringing sound in their ears or a frequency in their ear. People are having supernatural things happen to them, like myself. In fact, I didn't believe in any of this stuff until I came here. And oh yeah, they brujas and all. Yeah, no, I don't believe any of this
So
stuff.
since you've heard these things, I've been experiencing light flashes beyond my how do you say, beyond my sight, beyond my, how do you say, my view.
Mm-hmm.
So right, you see, I mean, there's sight, and then there's the point where you can't see anymore. I mean, if you two fingers in front of you and you move them outward, and there's a point where you can't see your fingers anymore. I see
Mhm.
light flashes there.
Wow. Some
You
people
know,
have taken
not,
pictures of
not every time, but sometimes I do it. I'm like, wow, that never happened to me before. Light flashes from from beyond my vision. That's weird.
hmm hmm
That's a new symptom.
Well, the people have taken pictures of me out here in fires, and maybe after this podcast, I'll show you. Uh, I'll post some pictures or whatever, so that you can see what those other people see. There was a fire here that happened. It was Day of the Firefighter or Day of the Family or something here, and we had a presentation at the park behind me. And during the presentation of us saying, "We're the foreigners here. We're here to teach firefighting," there was an explosion that happened in a field, and I saw it from. I'm at the podium with the microphone, and I see in the distance it looked like a volcano, poof, like this. I was like, "What the hell is that?" And all the firefighters go running. And we go out there and check it out what it is, and then someone had set a fire to like a brush fire, and it's in this field with a bunch of garbage and sticks and everything.
Mm.
And like I said, like this giant fire, just wind going crazy, and they took the whole field's on fire. And the way to handle that is to cut the cut a trail quickly so
Mm.
that the wind doesn't carry the fire
Yeah,
into the residential area and
yeah.
burn all the houses down. So we're running out there with shovels and doing our thing. And someone took a picture of me. And then I looked at the picture and I didn't see anything. This, whoa, dude, what is that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And you zoom in, and there is a head that looks like a horse that has a ring in its nose and it has horns inside this fire. There
Wow.
were four. Yeah, yeah. It's you couldn't Photoshop this thing better. It's that nice.
Yeah.
The more I
Wow.
look at it, the more I'm like, that has eyes, it has a face, it has claws, it has everything that a demon would look like. So that was just one incident. I went to the other ranch. We have a ranch that we grow apples and pears and um, a lot of fruit. We have about 500 trees on about 55 hectares. It's
Mm.
big, really, really big. We use that as our training center. And there's a family that lives there. They took me in and showed me around and taught me how to do their farming techniques and stuff like that. But it's a magical town, and I'm like, yeah, magical, magic this. So I go with a real estate agent, and she says, "Hey, let me show you something." We go on a hill that's like this. She puts her car now. Mind you, she's going down the hill like this. Puts
Mm.
the car in neutral. The car backs up by itself.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've been, yeah, I've been there. I've been there in Italy. That there's a place in Italy where that happens too. So yeah, and they call it trompe-l'œil, right? A trick of the eye.
Uh,
A trick. I'm not sure if it is a trick of the eye. I'm not
well,
sure.
it's definitely not because I was going in reverse in neutral. I went back there with my own car and tried it, so it's pretty cool. But I'd never experienced anything like that. But it's like magnetism pulling me backwards.
Yeah,
And I'm sitting there
it's
thinking to myself, that's how they made these Neolithic buildings. They use some kind of a frequency, some kind of a
right.
magnetic system. They were able to. One of my theories is that the reason why they took all
So
the
what? So why is it? Since you think about this, why do you think it's there? Like, why is it? Because I've, you have a way more defined idea about it. But I was like, why is it there in Italy? Because I was sure at the time that I was experiencing that it's not. It's not a trick of the eye. It's not. No, something else. It's actually going uphill there.
Mhm. Something supernatural is here that really pushed me back into the out of the arms of devastation and into the arms of the Most High.
Mm.
That I didn't want to go back to. I said, I've noticed I'm not going back to church. Fuck church. I'm not gonna do it. It's fucking hypocrite assholes that kicked me out of church because I got divorced. Then they blame me for getting divorced when she's the one who filed for divorce. And then she took the kid and didn't come back. And I was so angry. You know what I mean? And one of the reasons why I talk about this subject is because the guys that come here are so destroyed from relationships. That's why they come here. They come here because their heart's broken and they're out of shape. You know, they meet a girl, they're in shape, and then they get their heart broken, and they don't go to the gym anymore. And they don't read anymore. They don't educate themselves anymore, and they end up losers and they end up dying young. And so when they come here, I give them their superpowers back by forcing them to do hard work, hard work,
Good labor.
um, hard training, difficult stuff, dangerous stuff, scary stuff.
Which
But they,
probably most of them hardly ever did, I guess.
well, most are Marines, most are ex-military.
Oh, no.
So these guys they have discipline, they have it in
They
them.
know they need that. Yeah.
They definitely need it. When you get out, it's easy to fall right back into to mediocrity. And
Yeah.
so I'm teaching these guys to come back to who they really were, because I had to do that myself. Not just the physical outward appearance, but the inside. That's why I'm so skinny now. You know, I lost 20 kilos, and all my
Dude,
face is.
you're looking good. You're looking good, dude. You're looking.
I'm feeling
I mean,
good.
I mean, I see that you're sleep deprived. You look sleep deprived or like a junkie, but I know that look. You know.
Yeah, I got
I
shopping bags. I got them
share that
shopping
look.
bags. I got the
Yeah.
shopping bags under my eyes.
Right. Yeah.
I went to
Same.
Aldi, and there it is.
No, that's okay.
No. It's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm working on some new formulas for my eyes using different
Dude,
combinations.
I always used to look um, uh, pale, almost gray in winter.
Hmm.
And but somehow I don't. I think it's a Mandela effect. Somehow I attained. I look like just like you. You know, somehow tanned. But I don't live in Mexico. I live in the Netherlands, and I don't tan or whatever. I think it's a Mandela effect. I used to look gray, like in the picture, you know, in the avatar.
We might be the reptilians.
Do you think so?
We might be, because there's only a small percentage of people that are not part of this simulation.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're just backdrop robot people that don't have brains. And now that I know that, we can navigate and we can be okay with it. Why I don't get emotional when someone tries to dick me over, because it's part of the simulation. It's part of this theater, this opera that I'm in. And everything is fake.
We've
Everything
tried.
is a back.
Yeah, I'm with you, but because we've tried it long enough, right, to go along with the game and their emotions, and yeah, but this and yeah, I get that, yeah, but
Well,
in the end,
history is written by the winners. You know, we rewritten in whatever. Every single thing that we thought was real is not, or it's been changed, or it's been deleted, or it's been modified to sound slightly wrong. And then we think, oh, it must be right, because I remember our memory is so bad as humans. We have amnesia. We do, as a culture. Now, you and I are lucky to have been born in the 70s. We're lucky to have been grown up in the 80s and 90s and been an adult as the 1990s, because we got to see where the switch went off. Something happened.
yeah,
Who knows if the Mayan calendar was real and we really did die.
and because of that, we also see that such a switch and such a good times and bad times and fabricated times might have happened before our age, right?
Mhm. Like
Because I
Tritarian,
think our grandparents might have been like the orphans
they were definitely.
or the children, first children of the orphans.
Now, the orphans that, if nobody knows, the guys who watch this on the playback always love these little. I go off on these tangents when we come in. We want to talk about deja vu. That I've seen this before. Um, I'll tell you my backstory is that when I got out of the when I was when I got back from the war, I started having horrible nightmares. They were constant on the loop of nightmares. And I started having nightmares about this one man that had a mustache, about, gigantic fat mustache, darker skin guy,
Stalin,
maybe.
like Stalin mustache.
Well, it was like a Stalin mustache. Yeah, big old fat. Here in Mexico, we have the revolutionaries that had their giant mustaches,
Yeah, yeah.
big thick mustaches. And so I would have a nightmare almost nightly of crashing a plane, but it wasn't a normal plane. It was a biplane, which is World War One. The
Mm-hmm.
uniform I'm in is brown. I can't really see anything outside of that crash, that person. It's not me. It's another
Sounds
person.
British. Sounds British.
Who knows? But it's definitely World War One, and the outfit is brown, so I don't know what uniform that would have been. Um, but I definitely died in a plane crash. I've also been an Indian, a very short Indian man, had a white beard and a war turban, and I was living in a golden tower that had all of these um, like symbols, and when I say gold, I don't mean like, you know, I mean shiny, like dull shiny gold, like matted gold tower, and I'm this little guy in this tower with all these symbols that I don't remember or recognize, but I have these cyclic dreams of these people in these
Wow.
scenarios.
Still
Almost,
to
yeah,
this
yeah.
day.
Well, no, because I've had therapy. I have lots and lots of therapy,
Okay.
and part of the
That's
insomnia
that's that's why you can
started.
describe it so well, right? Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why I have insomnia now is because of the therapy I got. Because once I started getting therapy, I stopped sleeping. And I'm never tired, by the way. My face is beat up and I look like I'm, a mess, but mentally, I wake up, I'm sharp as a tack.
Yeah, I know what you.
Once I started getting therapy, I started sleeping less, but I stopped having severe nightmares. And these were terrors, by the way. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, that sounds like sleep paralysis, where somebody's on
No,
top of
you just
you."
need some rest. You do take your rest, right? I mean, it's not like you don't sleep at all. Sometimes you
No,
lay down, but
two
you might sleep or you may not, right?
in the
That's
day, I definitely do. I always take a nap right after the first class because it's an exercise class and it's an hour long, and I exercise with everybody.
yeah.
And it's like aerobics, it's fun, But the afternoon class is hardcore firefighters, which is going into a hot building and in a giant suit or into a scenario where they're carrying ladders or hoses or whatever.
Hot yoga, like hot yoga is a thing.
It was like Bikram, yeah, it's like Bikram yoga wearing a fire suit and a
Yeah.
helmet and heavy ass boots and everything else. And noise and stress and lots of people and a lot of confusion and radios and beeping and all this
First
stuff.
time I
So,
had to do that, into a room, into a gassed room, a room that was gassed when put on your gas mask
mhm.
right on time. I freaked out. I was the one that because I was one of the last to go in, and
Mhm.
usually I can deal with those kind of situations, but somehow I fucked up, and the whole group had to go out. I
Oh,
remember that. Yeah, I fucked up once, but it's
did you have to sing happy birthday while you're in there?
no, no, I don't remember. I don't. Yeah, we had to do. Of course, we had to do some. Yeah, some ritual or
Hmm.
some rhythm, but
Well,
no,
when they
I
say,
think no, it wasn't Happy Birthday. It was something else. No,
well, all
something.
I had to say was gas, 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 because I was the leader of the brigade. So
Right?
gas, 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 and off the mask comes, and then we had to sing happy birthday and choke, and then once they finally open the ventilation, and it's still gas in there. You are in pain, and it
Yeah,
sucks.
dude. Yeah, you still feel it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, people don't know that it's a deep, dark, painful, claustrophobic feeling that overcomes you that makes your hair stand up. It's a profound
Dude,
sense of
I've
fear.
been sprayed by the fucking police when they actually had me in custody already, and they sprayed me, and then they started transporting me without cleaning up my eyes or anything, and I had and this guy pushed me in the corner of the car, right?
Mhm.
And while constantly repeating, "Stop, stop, stop protesting," and this
What?
girl was in the corner watching my eyes bleed tears, and all I wanted to do is spit in her face because I could sense that she was there. All I
Mhm.
want, I didn't, because I knew, they were probably going to break my arms if I did that. But dude, I was.
Well, the police treated me like dog shit. They twisted me up. They bound my hands behind me. They put me in an ambulance. They put handcuffs. They actually put straps on both of my wrists.
Yeah, no, dude. I mean, I've been scarred for life like that. Yeah.
It really messed me up because I'm having a panic attack. I'm strapped to a bed, and I was accused of stuff I didn't do. And I'm like, this is not right. I didn't do any of this stuff. And that was the last time. It was the 19th of March 2002. And I was drunk as shit. And drunk. It's blackout drunk. I remember pieces of it because the guy hit me at the top of the stairs. They say he hit me so hard that I flew out of my shoes. Like my shoes were like glued to the floor. It fucking hit me out of my shoes. I went tumbling down the stairs. Then he started whipping me with a golf club, beating me on the face with the golf club, knocked this eye out of the socket.
What?
And so when they put me back together, when I woke up, I was in jail. And like I said, that was the 19th of March 2002. I had hallucinations because I was withdrawing from alcohol. I was full-blown alcoholic.
It's a good thing that you were drunk. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have survived. But, if you weren't drunk, you wouldn't have gotten into the situation to begin with.
No, none at all. And if I had made a better decision on women, I would have never been in that situation, which leads me back to the topic. Because the guy that adopted me knew the lady that I was with was on drugs. And I didn't know anything about cocaine, or I was in the military all my life. I don't know anything about drugs. I never did drugs. I just drank because that's what we did in the military.
Yeah.
So I was very I want to keep my job, so I never want to do anything dumb. And I always noticed that people would go, they would go up to your country and they would come back with stuff, and they would end up in court martial for drugs. Because they would drug test us like every Friday randomly. And the people getting kicked out of the military, like the last thing you want to do right now, in the 90s, is get kicked out of the military. So you got to go back to the US or go to wherever you came from. I'm not doing that. So I just didn't do anything. I never did drugs. But you could drink, but even drinking put me at that level of out of control.
Yeah.
Where I made poor decisions. I got emotional. I was physically violent. And so when they put me into that bed, I was so messed up. I was so messed up that they asked me what day it is. They said, "Do you know what day it is?" And I was like, "No." They go, "Well, do you know what month it is?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, they were like, "Do you know what year it is?" And it's like 1991. They're like, "No, it's 2002."
We're going to hold this against you.
Now, what they did next was even worse because they shot me with Thorazine.
Wow.
Yeah. And they kept me on Thorazine on this bed for an entire day with my arms like this. I pissed and shit my pants.
Yeah.
They stuck a tube down into my stomach to suck out whatever it was.
I don't want to hear that stuff, but yeah.
But this is what happened. And I don't, you know what I mean? So for a guy like myself, who's not part of this show, it's clear, it's definitely made it so hard.
I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through that, dude. That's humiliating. That's
yeah, so humiliating because you go from being up here to nobody.
Yeah.
And
for no reason at all.
Yeah, well, the thing is that my decision to drink that day caused every single domino to fall. So it was all my fault.
Yeah.
Every single bad thing that's ever happened to me has been directly or indirectly because of something dumb I did. And now I live in a level. Now I know where I am. Now I know what I'm saying. I don't know. Now don't get me wrong. I don't know. I'm assuming that this isn't what it used to be. Do you know I had the devil here? I had the devil incarnate in my fire academy. The devil. The devil himself.
I believe you.
The guy's name was Lucifer.
Yeah.
The guy's name was Lucifer. He was in a jail over here close that I used to go and teach meditation and conflict resolution. And I taught self-defense. If you look on any of my old Instagram or YouTube videos of me in a group with the Williams 30, that's a brigade that I put together of criminals. These are criminals that have been arrested for stealing or for kidnapping or for rape, but no murderers. And these are people who have no future whatsoever. These are people who constantly live on the street, go to jail, live on the street, go to jail, live on the street, go to jail. And, you know, I'm a recovered alcoholic, so I can identify with these guys as being a shitbag. But the mental part of it, after stopping drinking, even if they're in a jail for a whole year and they're not able to.
I mean, that's like a long time ago. 2002, right? You said you stopped. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to this jail every Saturday and I'm meeting all these guys and I'm like, look, guys, when you leave out of here, do you want to make your parents proud or are they going to think the same of you? My best solution is that even though you have no high school education, you can't read, you can't do math, I want to try and give you an opportunity to educate you because I can educate guys like this. I can educate children. I can educate practically anyone in a short period of time, just like teaching somebody to read lines for an opera or to do things for an opera or to set up a background for an opera.
Because you can read people's vibes and so you know how to, you know, where to connect, right?
Well, I've had the same conversation. I've had the same conversation.
I get it. You're a good teacher. You know, you can teach people, you know, like you said, in a short while, you can teach them a lot because it doesn't take much to teach. You just know how to, you just, you know, as a good teacher, you just need to know your moment. You know, you just need to read the student or the pupil and see what your, you know, where to get in, you know, how to get in. And it's, yeah. And I think you know how to do that. Yeah.
Well, with homeless addicts, it's the same conversation over and over again. It's the same one.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's like, have you ever
I
watched?
don't know. So tell me, what is the same comment? Like, what is
The
the
same conversation is that I was set up. I had a breakup. I got hooked on drugs, but they never admit their errors or their faults or anything. It's always blaming someone else. Never, 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 never take responsibility. Never admit to guilt, and never give in to authority, which is odd because you would think that people that were against authority would also go along with a guy who does not believe in authority.
Right.
And then when I get around them, I realize that these people are worse than me because I've developed a little bit and I don't want to be part of the problem. And so when they meet me and I talk to them and I said, look, I've had the same problems. They want to somehow use that same logic that I used to be that way as if I'm that same way that they are. And so when I had the devil come here, the devil himself came here, and I'll be straight with you. It surprised me that he toyed with me the way he did. When I say toyed with me in every aspect of life, this guy was provoking me. Every single day, he was provoking me with a different thing to fight with him about. To the point where I'm ready to strangle this fucking guy and kick him out.
His name gave it away, right? You told me his name was
Lucifer.
Yeah. So, you know,
his name was Lucifer.
he wasn't hiding.
No, he was right in my face, and I was like, I'm dealing with the devil.
He likes to do that. He likes to do that.
Well, this is an interesting perspective because the first day he's here, I said, well, here's the deal. You just got out of jail. I don't want my neighbors to think low of you. So I need you to always wear this black hat, this cap. I need you to always be dressed nice every day. If not in uniform, in training uniform, you are not allowed to leave here not in uniform. You cannot go outside dressed like you used to dress. We have a whole closet of uniforms here for people that come and go. So I said, well, I'm going to give you a chance. So he comes to the door. This is no joke. Almost at midnight on a Friday night and rings the bell. And who's that? and I see this beard of a guy that was one of the guys that was in the jail that I was teaching at. And I was like, hey, he goes, yeah, I remember when you told us that when we get out that you would help us get on our feet. I said, yes. He goes, well, I need to take you up on it because I got nowhere to go. The church won't take me in. The AA shelter won't take me in. And I said, well, damn, man, hold on. And I went downstairs and I talked to him and I said, well, here's the rules. You could stay here, but you got to take care of your own food. I'll give you a place to sleep in one of the dormitories because we had dormitories here. And I said, you could stay here. And while you're at it, I need you to do every single thing that's on the list of stuff to do, because in firehouses, the new guys always sweep, they always mop, they wash clothes, they clean the windows, they clean the trucks, they roll up everything, and the benefit is they get to stay for free. Not a bad deal.
It's not a bad deal at all.
And so I give this guy a chance to do that. And so for the first week, he was raring to go. He sees me up early. He sees me up writing. He sees me up recording videos and doing preparation for the classes. And so when he comes up, we have a park that's back behind us, and we're doing a reforestation project. It's an abandoned public park that I took possession of. I took over the entire municipal park system here. So they have no park rangers. And so I said, well, for now, you're going to be deputized temporarily as a park servicer. So you're going to do nothing but you're going to come here every day. You're going to clean every day. You're going to take the trash out every day. You're going to knock the weeds down, mow the grass. You're going to plant flowers where I say. You're going to paint everything that I say. You're going to everything that I tell you to do, you got to do. No problem. No problem. The day this guy had to go back out to the park all by himself, and I sent 2 or 3 guys with him, he just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked, holding a broom in his hand for fucking hours while watching everybody else work. And I'm not aware of this. And I'm listening to the guys, and they come out, what's up with this guy? I go, what do you mean? He goes, this guy, first of all, thinks he fucking knows everything. And he won't stop talking about the Bible, but he's not talking about the Bible because we know the Bible, and he's saying verses that are half right and the rest he's making it up. I'm like, what? So one day he's there by himself. Now in Mexico, they have sacred trees. These trees are illegal to cut down, and they're called the mesquite. It's a thorny, very bushy tree that grows in the desert. And they have several of them people planted. And so one morning I hear the doorbell, actually it wasn't the door, banging on the door. And I come out and I go, hey, what's the problem, lady? You cut down all the mesquites. Do you understand that those are our safety? Those are our power for the town? And I was like, no, I didn't cut any trees down. And we're here cutting grass. What are you talking about? So the lady gets combative with me. And so I jump into defensive mode of, hey, masculine lady, you don't talk to me like that. You could talk to your husband like that, but you're not going to talk to me like that. I don't even know what you're talking about. I didn't cut any trees down. If anything, we trimmed some that was hanging down in the walkway. Well, I had no idea, but this guy, who is the devil, cut down the sacred fucking trees in the park that we were trying to reforest. Cut them all the way down to a nub. And I'm defending this guy because I had no idea that he had done that. I assumed that he was just cutting a little bit of walkway branches. No, this motherfucker took a machete and a clipper and cut them all the way to the fucking ground. And I was like defending him, and then she gets mad, and he's like, hold on, I'll handle this. And he goes outside. This is the conversation that he has. Oh, don't worry about him. He's fucking crazy. And I'm listening to this guy. Yeah. He's a simp. He's a simp too. He is the opposite of masculine. Like, he had done 9 years in prison. And so when he got out of prison, he had
9 years.
9 years in prison for rape, a child. I didn't know this. And I work with children. I can't have people around that are with anything to do with that. I'm ready to murder this guy. I'm ready to throw his ass off a fucking bridge. And I didn't know that until after the fact. because they don't vet people here. They give you their name, they show you their ID, you look on Google, there's nothing there, nothing. You don't exist. So I said, all right, well, just like the Foreign Legion, they give guys a chance, I will do the same. As long as you're not guilty of any. He didn't admit to any of that, so it doesn't matter at this point. But when he started to do the training with the kids, I'm noticing that he's touching like the arms of the kids and, you know, doing hugs and stuff. And I said, wait a minute. You understand that I told you from day one, we do not hug kids. We do not touch anybody. We do not hug women here. We shake hands from a distance. You do not touch fucking anybody for any reason. No instructor is allowed to talk, is allowed to touch or be alone with any children. And he disregarded what I said completely as if he didn't fucking hear it or he didn't take me seriously. And so one day I go to the market, and when I come back, he has two boys sitting between his fucking legs out on the fucking sidewalk out front. Me and my wife come by, go, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, boys, vayate, go to your house now, run. And so I tell this guy, what the fuck are you doing? I told you you're not allowed to talk to kids, and much less have them sitting between your fucking legs. So now the devil starts to come out, and he's deflecting. He says, well, no, it's not like that. I said, I don't give a fuck what it's like. The perception alone is enough. If a fucking parent walks by here and sees a guy dressed in a firefighter's uniform, to which you are not, it says academia, which means academy, a grown-ass man with two boys. And he's like, no, 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 it's not like that. It's this. I said, I told you from day one, you're not allowed to touch anyone. And yet you're going to fucking try and defend yourself against me. You can't. Okay? Because the fucking minute someone was to make any kind of accusation, it's already assumed as true. And you could shut down this fucking foundation and all the places that I built, that through all these fucking years, some fuck up who did 9 years in prison for rape of a child is going to come around here and try and pull that shit on me. So I called my team. I got 4 or 5 commanders. I got 4 or 5 captains. I got fucking federal police officers. They're fucking here in 3 seconds. And we all have this nice meeting in our downtown office. And I tell them, I said, okay, from day one you've been defiant. From day one you've been lying. From day one you've been using or drinking or whatever the fuck you're doing, because you're raring to go at 6 a.m. like somebody's been doing cocaine or crystal meth or whatever the fuck these drugs are they do here. And he's so slick about it that he would spray his whole body down with like whatever the foot spray is, and the whole room would be flawless and immaculate at 5 a.m. And then what I started to notice is that he progressively started to ignore my orders. Every single day that I would say, okay, guys, we're going to work as a team and cut all this grass, he would go on the other side of the fucking park and start digging holes for no reason. For none. No logical reason whatsoever. Then one day I'm looking down off the balcony and he's in the back laundry room and he has got the valves opened up on all of the fucking sinks as full as they would go. We have tanks on the roof that empty out like this. And I'm like, what are you doing?
And
he's like, no, I'm just going to
this guy was he was part of your team for just a week, right? I mean,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, just a week. Long enough for me to figure out he was fucking really crazy. Like, not in a violent way, because he knew that could have murdered his ass, because he couldn't fight. That was the thing. He couldn't fight to save his life. He tried. He had the strength, but he didn't have any skills whatsoever. I do Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff, and I can twist him up in a fucking pretzel and kill him. So he knew that, but yet the psychopathic nature of the devil doesn't fucking matter, because he told me on the way out, it doesn't matter, William.
It's like describing Yuval Harari.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I could not fucking believe it with my. I just could not fathom the idea of a fucking human being this fucking evil in every possible way, like as defiant and as selfish and as self-centered and self-seeking in every way. And his name alone is the devil. Now, what really fucking freaked me out was his notebook. He had a notebook with some language I'd never seen before. He was writing in symbols, like a fucking person writing in cursive. He was writing in symbols, like he knew this oddball language. And I was like, what in the fuck is this? Then we have the chalkboard downstairs, and we have the markers that you use on the white chalkboards. He gets a permanent marker and makes a satanic weird symbol I've never seen before on the chalkboard. And I'm like, what in the fuck? Why would you use a permanent marker on it? And what the fuck is this? I got people coming here. I can't, you know what I'm saying? So I had to like cover it up and then get some paint remover or something to get it off, because this guy's a lunatic. So I talked to the commander and everything, and I was like, Commander, you got a problem over here, guy. And
I mean,
it's
lunatic.
the devil. It's the devil.
Lunatic is not the word. It's a Satanist. Yeah.
Well, it was definitely this.
Yeah, don't call it lunatic. I mean, that's blaming the moon. I mean, I don't know.
Right. But it surprised me that, and this was the part that I got, and this is where I went off on him. And I used my superpowers on him. I didn't realize it would work, but it worked. And this is how I did it. Okay. I knew that he had been going out in the mornings and going and hanging out with drug addicts. I knew he had been trying to hang out with the guys that were in the jail with him. So I get a good look at him, and I'm like, listen, I don't know what demon or problems that you might have. I can't control that, but I'm not going to allow you to stay here and ruin your life simultaneously, because that's it's counterproductive to what our whole point is of being here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my hand up like this towards him. And I said, and so for that, I go, I bind the demon that is in you in the mighty name of Jesus. I did like the pastor at the evangelical church exorcism. And you know what? His whole face dropped, and he didn't say a word until we had our little thing. And I finally got him out of here, thank God. But well, I don't know if they put him in jail. I know that they took him far away from here. Didn't hear back from him since. But what I did notice is that when I wasn't around, he was talking behind my back constantly. He was talking to other recruits about me, and I'm like, what in the fuck is this guy doing? Like, he sabotaged everything. Like, he sabotaged the house. He sabotaged the locks. He sabotaged the equipment. He sabotaged the hoses. He sabotaged the relationship with the parents. He tried to sabotage my own relationship with my wife. Every single thing that came out of this guy's mouth was a half truth with a lot of lies. And I was like, I can't believe it. I'm actually in the presence of the devil. Everybody agreed with me too. They're like, even his name is the devil. So when we fortunately were able, I like I said, I bound the devil in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I did it just like you would think that you would, like an exorcism for like an Orthodox person would do, not like a Catholic, or I'm talking about like a Serbian Orthodox would be. And I meant it. When I fucking put my hands up, I meant it. I put my hands up and I bind you now in the mighty name of Jesus. And I was like, and any problems you might have, I bind it now in the name of Jesus. If you got an alcoholic problem, I bind it now in the name of Jesus. And I say, in the spirit of Lilleth, I bind you in the name of Jesus. And this guy's whole demeanor changed immediately. And for several days after that, until he was gone,
he was just paralyzed, frozen.
Completely frozen. Right. Like he wasn't ready for that. And the deflection.
Dude, I have been in similar situations, but I didn't have the same reaction as you did. Mm-hmm. And but yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I'm not saying I'm an innocent angel, but I don't do anything that anybody would be able to accuse me or anything. I don't live in that way. In fact, I do this little game. It's called the truth game, which I don't lie, period. I try my best that if I tell a lie, I back it and say, that's bullshit. Like when you ask me, I'm your only person on here. I'm streaming on 15 streams. That's bullshit. That was the automatic reaction that I give to people when When I let something slip, I immediately say that's not true. This is how it really went. And a lot of times I would embarrass myself because I want to be honest about stuff. Even stuff like even with her, when I was dating her, I said, you know, the first 5 years we were together, I used Viagra every single day. Every single day I took Viagra. She had no idea. She just thought I was Superman with these fucking muscles. She didn't know that the steroids I was taking making me fucking impotent. You know what I'm saying? So I had to take Viagra in order to get it up. Plus, you know, I was still a degenerate adulterer. I was running around, you know, 2, 3 different women a day. And if I go to a competition, holy shit, you know, if you go anywhere into any bodybuilding show in Europe, the bikini girls are all just gold diggers and they have sugar daddies. So they're really, really easy to pick up. And if you win first place, they always want to get with the winner. So it was really easy for me to get these girls. So I was a womanizer, and that's what I did. Took Viagra, took steroids, selfish asshole, egotistical, winning trophies, being Mr. This, Mr. That. And to the point,
you're covering the whole spectrum. You're actually covering the whole spectrum of masculinity here, because you've grown into become a teacher. You live you're living in a castle, no, a palace, right? You call it a palace. It's a palace.
Yeah.
You're living in a palace in Mexico. Because I'm introducing you to the people that are watching my stream, because I'm restreaming your stream, just so you know.
Sure.
Because I like meeting you, so people can find you too. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool, bro. Here going on, living in a palace in Mexico, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's dated
Professor,
as
right?
founded in 1810. That's when this palace was abandoned. Actually, it was abandoned for over 100 years. It has tunnels underneath that some asshole put dynamite in to collapse them. I
Yeah, tell us
guess.
more. Tell me more.
About the castle or about this story about the devil? Because the devil was real and we kicked his fucking ass out of here, but it made me aware of we might not be in a real place. We might be
No,
in hell. We might
first,
be.
first the palace. First about
Okay. The
palace.
palace was
Tell us,
owned by the.
tell us more
Okay.
about the palace first,
Have you ever
because
heard of a
people want
guy?
to
You
know
ever heard
you,
of
who
Pancho?
you are.
Have you ever heard of Pancho Villa? Okay, Pancho Villa was a revolutionary here in Mexico that was basically like
No.
okay, well, they didn't want the Spanish here anymore. The Spanish had taken over the entire country. The French were here. So revolutionaries were the hardcore Mexicans that were a militia. And this guy, Pancho Villa, was like the hero of Mexico. He's still a national treasure. And the castle is actually one of his guys who owned his castle in his town where he was from. And he had just inherited all of this land that underneath the ground there was a fort, and it's called a star fort. Probably about 5 or 6 or 7 or 800 years old. No one knows. I haven't had any radiocarbon dating done or any of the carbon-14 stuff done yet, but I will. But he had silver mines, and he had a standing army of his own, and he lived in this palace. So about a year or two ago, I started watching YouTube videos by a guy named John Levy. John Levy is a guy that was a dishwasher in a Pizza Hut. And John stumbled upon an ancient structure in Utah, and he started questioning, why are these old buildings here that are older than the civilization supposed to be? Why does this town only have 10,000 people, but yet they built this palace here? Well, they kind of discovered that there was a mud flood that covered most of the United States, called most of Europe, most of those places, and buried these castles underneath the ground. And the theory is that the wealthy elites discovered these things because there was no communication between cities. You know that, right? So if there was a mud flood, if there was the orphans, if there all that stuff, they were repopulating, and they discovered gold, all the gold that was left over from the people who were here before. They adopted And basically, they inherited all these buildings, and one of these buildings was this castle. The whole town was a castle, not just this one building that I'm in. The entire town is a enormous fort. It has an ancient bridge that the posts are still there. Matter of fact, when I go back after it's gone from red to green, because I'm not going back until they're done with the narcos there killing us. So I'm not going back for a while. I'm not going to go. I'm going to get stopped by the fucking cartel on the fucking highway, and they take my car and kill me. No, none of that shit. So it was founded in 1810, but everybody in the entire neighborhood has a piece of the castle built on they built their houses from parts of this castle. So I have the core part of the castle. I have the entrance to the castle. I have the tower to the castle. I have all of the ranch part of the castle, the toro, so the bullfighting ring. I got the bullfighting ring. Here's one of the dogs we rescued, by the way. Little mutt, beautiful, cutie pie. So we have all the stuff, but
Yeah,
everybody from
that's
the
a cute
whole
little mud.
it is the owners of everything else is owned by the Catholic Church. Catholic Church owns all that stuff, all those houses. Even the palace was
So
owned
you,
by the church. It was
I mean,
heritage.
so you're actually in this position. You're actually in this position of keeping your enemies close, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and what's weird is that it has been a systematic system of betrayals from the time I was young until now. And I realize it after the fact a lot of times, but I mean, I'm 50 moves ahead of so many people sometimes. But sometimes people slip by and then they try and get me. Because when you're rich, the only thing you do is defend and try and store the things you've collected. The only thing that you do pretty much 24 hours a day is stare at cameras, hire security, stay away from danger, hope for the best. That's what it's like being a rich man in Mexico. Seriously, because even in the richest part of Mexico City, people get robbed at gunpoint. They steal the Ferraris and stuff. Because this is like New York City. It's not like or it's like Berlin, or it's like Frankfurt in the richest parts.
Dude, New York City is not even that bad because New York City has such a bad name, since the 80s or the 90s for having so much robberies,
Mhm.
daytime robberies of people in the street that just work for the banks and just work in these tall buildings and pretty much nobodies with a lot of money, and
Mhm.
can be robbed easily. While that was a thing, Johannesburg had the same culture, but more based niggas, so to say. They were
Mhm.
even. I mean, Johannesburg had more killings per day. But back in the day, Johannesburg had more killings than New York.
I've been in New York since when I don't know, but before it was cleaned up. So I was talking about Charles Bronson, Clint Eastwood time era, like when they
Yeah,
showed those movies in the old days,
78.
the 70s and 80s. That's what I envisioned New York being like. And so now it's real cleaned up and nice and beautiful and rich people there and people walking around holding hands and stuff. And I couldn't imagine it being that way. And then the street numbers, if it goes back beyond that way, you don't go that way. If you're white, you don't go that way. If you're black, you don't go that way. If you're Spanish, every little section is its own little town and you stay out of there. So it's beautiful now.
Besides
But
that,
like I said,
I
this
must tell
town,
you something about my history. Yeah,
hmm,
yeah. I lived in South Africa, you know, uh, in 1983 to 1984. So I also know what apartheid is, and that system of separation. I mean, it's great. Yeah, I've seen, not all of it, but I lived there for a year when I was 12 years old, 13, which was a cult shock for me. But it's another side of the system. It's a way more English side of the system. It's weird, dude. I came from this liberal country called the Netherlands, right? And in 1984, I was transported. 1983, I think, I was transported to South Africa, which was like, oh, blacks are, black people are just, different. And dude, it was such a cold shock for me. It was a very weird thing. And then in 1984, I got back to the Netherlands. So yeah,
One of my friends was kidnapped
I
in
don't know
South
why I
Africa.
wanted to tell you that, but something. Oh, he was. Yeah, I mean, it was probably the violence. Yeah, the violence that
His
got
father
me
was a
talking about
Navy
that.
officer.
There was
His
a
name
lot
is
of
Mark John
violence
Bill.
there.
His name is Mark John Bill, and he's a Range Rover collector in Palm Beach. And he grew up with his father in the Navy. He was a Navy commander. He was an admiral, and his whole family was kidnapped for ransom in South Africa. And I think they hurt him too. I don't remember exactly his story, but it was Mark John Bill and Dorstein. Dorstein. So Dorstein's mother was always pissed off all the time. Mark John Bill was always afraid of people. So when he got around me, he felt very comfortable, because I don't hold anything against anybody. This, I just haven't. I've been around so many cultures and so many people. I learned a lot of good habits from the Americans. I learned a lot of bad habits from Americans. I got to see a neutralized, sort of neutered culture. American blacks that end up in the military usually become really professional and educated and very, very different. They stay overseas. Then when they go back to the States, they're like, I don't belong here. So they come back overseas and end up as passport bros going all over the world and living in Colombia, living in Brazil, opening their own online businesses and becoming the things that the white Americans from the back in the day didn't want them to be. Because if you strip away the stigmatism, it says you're not allowed to leave the States because you're black, or you can't become anything because you're black, is almost it's comical because that's part of the system's narrative, is to fool people into believing that because this person's from Albania, they're going to try and rob you. If this person is from the Macedonia, then he's going to try to rape your wife. There's a lot of things that are told and perpetuated about all of our cultures that says one thing about it, and that people assume it to be true. So when I invite Black Americans that were in the military to come down, I'm dealing with gentlemen. I'm not dealing with thugs. I'm not dealing with degenerates. I'm dealing with people with both parents who have been to college, who are educated, have never been to jail. And so I don't have a problem with them. And so those are the people that I invite. Those are the people on my podcast. Those are the people who subscribe to me. And those are the people that I promote. There's a guy named Austin Holloman that experiences firsthand. He's from Dallas, Texas, or Houston, and now he's super famous on YouTube in the Black community for the Passport Bros. And the Passport Bros is basically just guys that wash their hands of American women and said, you know what? We can find better women elsewhere. So they go to Thailand and they get treated like kings and they stay there and live on the beach and drink margaritas, or they come to Mexico and they live on the beach and they marry a Mexican woman and have a slew of kids. But they live that dream that people hope for when they move to the States to get the American dream. And for American blacks, it's a nightmare because no one's going to give them an opportunity based on cultural stigmatisms attached to violence and trouble. Because there's a big difference between Pookies and Ray Rays and normal black people, and they want to separate themselves from being the people that they feel like they are, and then the traumatized, fucked up baby mama, single mother, fucked up ghetto ass lifestyle that they observe other people living and say, I want no part of that. And so now I'm happy enough to fucking see and recognize that there are decent people in the black community, and I give them an opportunity to give them enough rope. If they hang themselves, fine. If they're good people, they'll stick around and they'll learn something from me, and they'll say, you know what, the professor is very different because he's clearly a white guy, can figure that out, doesn't talk about us in a bad way, but he can joke with us in a way that we can kind of learn from each other. So now I'm at this position in life where if a guy is gets out of the military, goes back to the States, and he's caught smoking pot, and he does a year in jail for a fucking joint, and it ruins his life, and he can't get a job, he can't get an apartment or whatever, or worse, he's got no future. So a guy who's been to jail for something nonviolent would come down here, and I go, "What's your name?" And he said, "Well, my name is Jermaine." I said, "Well, it's always Jermaine's fault, so now your name is Jimmy. How you feel about that, Jimmy?" He goes, "That's all right. I'll work on that." So they come down here, and I educate them. I put them in uniform. Once they graduate, they go back to the States with a certificate that says that they're a firefighter, and they go work for their municipality. See, without that opportunity, they can't. They can't work a job if you have a criminal record. Once they come down here, they get what's basically like a waiver that says that this is a nonviolent crime that happened to me 10x years ago. I've since educated myself. I've since been certified as an EMT or a paramedic or as a rescuer or a hazmat or whatever. And these are all ex-military guys, so they're not dummies. These are guys that have discipline. They know how to dress.
So,
When they get
so,
dressed,
so they, right? They're not dummies at all. They, like you said, they're very disciplined men. And that's because they miss the discipline or they need to get creative. That's why they get lost because they're not creative, man. That doesn't mean that they
culture doesn't want them to be creative. The culture wants
at all.
the culture
They're
wants them
very
to be
useful.
addicted to money.
So it's a good mission that you're doing. Yeah.
It's a good one, man. It's a really good, I didn't think I would be doing this at all. I did not for a minute think that, because they started inviting themselves. They started inviting themselves like, look, I need to do something. I need to get out of here. So I was in Medellin, Colombia for a while. And I was one of the first YouTubers in Colombia before feminism really started to make the civilization go to shit. And before political correctness had taken over, I started doing YouTube videos about you can come down here and marry a bombshell, beautiful girl that's going to treat you nice and take care of you. And you see, Colombians, that what people don't know is because they assume everything about Colombians, that they're into drugs or they're prostitutes or whatever. They don't know until they come down and actually experience it for themselves that, first of all, Colombians don't do drugs because they know how it's an export to the United States to ruin their lives. And the cartels make shit tons of money, and they support the government, and they buy shit for poor people and all that stuff. So they have a reason to keep the cartel around there. So when I was on a mission, basically, go down there and say, I want to find a wife. I want to fucking move into a farm. I want to do something like that. So I became a YouTuber while I was doing my thing. And I said, guys, you can come down here and be a man. Well, somebody in New York, I had 32,000 subscribers at one point. And so I was getting just bazillion messages. Like, God damn. And one of the videos I did went half-ass viral. And there were comments in the section saying, hey, check this guy out. He's down in Colombia. And they were all spelling Colombia with a U. And they come down and they said, hey, Professor, I really want to meet you when I come down. You know, I've never been to Colombia before, and I'm kind of scared because I'm like, I don't do drugs. I'm not into that. I'm like, I don't do drugs either. But imagine if you wanted to go do drugs, you probably could, because they make drugs here. But the people who live here know what it does to people, and it ruined the reputation of the country because of the cartel and because of Escobar. That murdered his own people, that murdered the judges and lawyers and imprisoned people and kidnapped officials. So they didn't want any part of drugs. And the thing about Colombians is they're very nice. Like, they're sweet. They would die before they embarrass you. Americans are used to their women embarrassing them and making them feel humiliated and emasculating them, because that's what the culture perpetuated. Also, the black women have become the right hand of white supremacists as far as wanting to destroy the black men, because they don't want them to go overseas. They don't want them to get a good looking wife. They don't want them to have a nice, normal family and everything and have children and so on. Instead, they assume the very worst about what we do down here. And so that stigmatism of prostitution, which, it's ridiculous to me that they want to shame us for wanting a better life, to have a partner that cares about us and loves us and takes care of us and so on. Like, I'm not I've not one. This woman has not once ever raised her voice to me. She's cordial. She's from a good family. Her family makes forklifts in Mexico. So it's not a. Have you ever bought a forklift? They're expensive. So their family's not poor. And so what the American women are doing to try and shame black men into not coming down, saying that we're dusty and that we're broke, and then we're coming down here because the women are poor and you can manipulate them and turn them into slaves, and it's all bullshit because they're jealous and they don't want the baby mama supposedly to see. What baby mamas do is they look for somebody to replace the dads. And if all the good men, which they rejected to begin with because they're smart, because they aren't into the ghetto lifestyle, they don't sell drugs, they're not scammers, they're not drug dealers. Those are not guys that the women are interested in. And those are the guys that come down here. They're not drug dealers, they're not, pimps or anything. So it gives them an opportunity to see what it's like to live in the middle class or upper class. Most veterans, if they retire, usually have about a pension about $3,000 to $5,000 a month, depending upon what rank they had. Or if they're disabled, they can come down here and get mental health treatment, get therapy, and it doesn't cost them anything. So they can come down here, get therapy, and get their life together and stay down here and live the rest of their life out in peace. That's not what the right hand of white supremacy wants. The right hand of white supremacy wants them to stay in the ghetto, perpetuate the ghetto, sell drugs, get arrested, go to a private prison, which private prisons makes 50,000 US dollars a month per prisoner. So there's an incentive for them to put black guys in jail. For one, if you put drugs and money and guns in front of people who don't have fathers, who can't control themselves emotionally, they're going to gravitate towards crime because crime pays. So if they're smart, they'll start scamming people. And if they're not smart, they sell drugs because it's easy money. But they don't realize is that the government perpetuates the criminals to keep becoming criminals. It's a revolving door. And the prisons now are nothing more than asylums. That's all it is. Put a person who is insane into an insane asylum with other insane people. And the people who aren't insane, who get locked up in those insane asylums, become insane. And when they turn out, they leave. Now they're broken. They're living with trauma. And a lot of the guys are from single mother homes. So they have no father figure around them. They meet me, who's the epitome of a father figure, an educator, and I'm the professor for the bros. It's why they call me the brofessor. And it came because one of the students was in the class when I'm teaching the agricultural stuff, and they were like, excuse me, professor. And everybody laughed. And I said, hey, I like that. So that's when I became the professor, and that was back in Panama. So you can see my motivations are pretty good. But along the way, I've had a lot of people dick me over. And I want to warn guys about the people who dick me over and why, and to look at the causes and conditions of what made those people become in the mindset they did, which is why I think this is a simulation and why I think that these people that constantly are coming at me are demons, they're demonic, or it's part of the devil. And if this is hell or if this is a simulation, it's fucking awesome because my player one is kicking ass. Hope you like that rant. What do you say? Are you still there? All right. I'll continue. So aside from all that, I don't work with right now up until this is no longer a hot zone for the
Yeah,
cartel. I'm not
I'm
inviting
still here.
anybody
I'm
to
still
come.
here. So
I'm saying I'm not inviting anyone down until the cartel goes away because they go in phases. They apparently have a problem with somebody or somebody has a problem with them. So they have like a little miniature civil war and it affects the civilians around and
yeah,
they're targeting government people. And I'm not part of the government. None of this is part of the government. I don't get a penny from any government agency whatsoever to run this show. But I am helping the guys to at least recognize that they can be more than they are.
yeah.
And they come down here and they're fucking
That's
floored by
yeah,
the fact that
yeah.
we have a
I'm in the
pastor
same
here.
position, and that's why I And that's why that's why people like us are so hated so much upon, right? But still, even though because of even despite of all the hate, we're still in a good position, right? I mean, I think we are.
By all means. I mean, if it wasn't, we were doing anything, no one would hate us.
Right? I still feel blessed. And when I look at you and I think, well, I mean, you've been pissed upon and shed upon, but you're still in a blessed position, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm
You're still
well,
in a position to be grateful and right, yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, I think I know why I'm here.
and you can share your knowledge.
I think I know why I'm
Yeah,
here. If I'm dead, that
yeah.
means that
Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay, but go ahead. Yeah,
no, it's okay. It's true. If we didn't have anything going on, no one would hate us. Do you know that I was attacked when I got here by the municipality? Do you know that they did to me? Do you know what they did to me? Okay, one night we have what's called AAA, which is wrestling, fake wrestling, costumes and the masks and all that. So we have about 30 something kids. So we had tickets. One of the veterans came down and donated 20 something kids for 20 something tickets for the kids to go sit at the front row of the wrestling, to watch wrestling and take pictures of the wrestlers in uniform. And so that night, I backed into a parking spot that was a handicap spot, but there was no post that said there was handicap. It was just a painted on symbol on the ground. I'm in the middle of this AAA wrestling thing, and I'm getting all these text messages from all the firefighters. Hey, man, you got to move your car. You got to move your car. I go, okay, okay. So I go out and I move my car. I didn't think anything of it. In minutes, I was on social media, on Facebook. Oh, the firefighters without borders. Look at the example they're giving. What are they teaching the kids? And what a terrible example. They have a picture of me backing into this parking spot. Then they said someone said something to me. And I was like, nobody said anything to me. They said, yeah, I talked to that guy. He looks like a mean guy. And he screamed at me and says, I could park anywhere I want. They lied about me and then published it in the fucking newspaper the next day in a big, wide photo, like a fucking shot of my car back, in a parking spot. It was good advertising, by the way. But no good deed goes unpunished. That's for sure. So they tried to prosecute,
oh yeah,
public
all
opinion.
about that.
They didn't want me to. They didn't want me to be here. I'm like, what is the matter with you people? We donated 1,000,000 pesos of equipment, and now you don't want me to be around. And then that's what they do. They call you
They just
crazy.
can't stand your light. They just can't stand your light. They just can't stand. I mean, they will have anybody's pesos, but not anybody's words or light. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah,
Don't you think so? I mean,
I
it's
do. Well, I think about
yeah.
it now more than ever because, like I said, if this is simulation or if this is some kind of a video game where I'm the person that's part of this game,
I
maybe
never
you are.
liked fucking video, dude. I never liked fucking video games. Well,
Well,
when I was like 9, 10 years old, until like maybe 20, 21 years old, but I never got deep into it. I mean, Sonic is just, that's pretty much the end of my gaming career. So I'm not a gamer at all.
let's say that you are Sonic, and the mission is to jump over things and collect coins, and maybe exactly. So what we put it into 4D, we make it into a real thing,
Uh,
and all of the extra characters. So I don't know if your viewers or anybody like that has ever played adventure games like Zelda or anything like that, but you would be you would be the Link, and you're looking for to free Zelda from the bad guys or whatever. But during the trip, you have to buy swords, you have to buy shields, you have to buy let's say helmets or whatever. And the people selling those things are just NPCs, non-player characters that you can't hurt them. I played a bunch of games when I was young too, and you try to hit the person, and they would just sit there and repeat the same words all over again. You're not hurting them. So
Right.
if this is a simulation, then the NPCs are basically people who cause us problems, or they're part of the mission, or they're part of the thing. And what's bizarre is that I've never had these abilities before. I didn't have these superpowers before. It's for me to formulate in my mind that today I want to have, okay, I'll put a number in my head, 12 people in my exercise class at 10 a.m., which is in an hour and a half. Yesterday we had 6. The day before we had 4. The day before that we had 2. And so, you see what I'm saying? It goes like that. But people that are NPCs aren't here they're part of the background. And I'm getting upset at NPCs for being stupid. I'm getting upset at NPCs for trying to dick me over. But what I realize is this is part of the storyline. And if I recognize it all as being nothing more than a simulation, and everything originates from my subconscious mind, because look at it this way, man. Listen, I was renovating one of my apartments in Mexico City, and I needed 6 outlets. Now, you and I know what a good switch is.
Electrical outlets, you mean, right?
Right. They're completely different. You got the old ones, the knob and tube, old school ones. I was tearing all those out, putting in new wiring, putting in new stuff. And I said, hey, you know what? I need 6 new switches for this apartment, and I can rent it out. So I go to the hardware store, and each one of them, no joke, is $30 US, say, a piece. Very expensive.
What?
Very, very expensive. Very expensive. For 4 or 5 times the cost that you and I would pay in a regular hardware store, because they're imported. So if you want anything nice, you got to be able to shell out for it. Well, I have a high-rise apartment building in Mexico City, and so I have to make the nicest apartments for them to pay the top dollar for the apartments for Airbnb. So I go around, in my mind, I'm thinking I have to buy 6 switches, and they're going to cost me $30 each. That's ridiculous.
No.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, for some reason, I have this feeling that around the corner is a market that sells all kinds of stuff. And there's a guy on the ground in front of the store, like the convenience store, and he's selling like junk, like old knives or maybe a compass.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish this story. He just
Please do.
was there just selling 6 or 7 of the
Exactly.
same ones, just
exactly
for $2
exactly.
a piece, right?
they were all made by the same company that they sold in the hardware store.
Oh wow!
And this is the best part. They were all the color I needed. They were all bronze. No white ones, no yellow ones, no beige ones, all bronze. And they had the metallic plate.
Which would cost you even more. The bronze version would cost you even more than, yeah.
And they're aluminum. That's the thing. They're aluminum.
You sold them, and you made big bucks on it. You went to the bank selling that to your customers.
I didn't sell them. I put them in my apartment.
You needed them.
Yeah, I needed them. So that kind of like set the pace. I said, wait a minute. If that's true, then I'm going to start applying this to everything. So I started formulating in my mind the girl I wanted to be with, the place I wanted to live in. And I go back to what John Levy started investigating. Now, he became famous for him investigating these Tartarian structures and this theory of the mud floods and this theory of the repopulation using orphans and the trains and the train systems. And it dawned on me, every country I've been to has had a train station and train system that has been removed. Like in Panama, during the turn of the century, when the French were there, they had a train system that used to take all of the workers to and from to the canal before the French were all killed off by the yellow fever. And then when the Americans took over, they took out all of the trains. They took all of the rails out. Then when I went to Puerto Rico,
the yellow fever. I mean,
well, Puerto Rico was also depopulated. It was also with Taino Indians. The Taino Indians don't know how to run trains. The Taino Indians were living in a fucking jungle. Okay, why was there a train system in the Taino Indian villages when they didn't know how the train operated? But when the Americans came, and this was a John F. Kennedy, right around before John F. Kennedy took over.
Island. talking about Puerto Rico?
The island of Puerto Rico had a train system that the Ford Motor Company came in and traded all of their train system for trucks and also built them a highway. So then I went to Panama, same thing. When I went to Colombia, same thing. Here in Mexico, same thing. Everywhere there were train systems. There were rails everywhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the trains were amazing. Like they had these like amazing detail to them.
I
And
know,
they're
dude. I
all
mean, that's why so many people have still. I mean, especially in the '60s and '70s, this whole building trains in miniature, right?
wow.
You know, and there was a whole culture in itself. You know, hobby training, like having these miniature Märklin trains. You know, and building this miniature um, realm in the attic or in the basement.
In the
That, I
keller.
mean, that was a thing back in the day, right? Well, in
Mhm.
Europe it was, and
Yep.
because there was like a because the big man, the actual rulers of the world had a similar thing. You know,
Well, they're
it's
more ancient than we know. We don't know how.
yeah. Yeah.
What blows
There
my
are they are on the outskirts looking upon it. I mean, we are these figurines. That's you and me. We are these fucking figurines.
we're the cavemen too. We're the ones who we're the survivors of the survivors of the last cataclysm. There's been few. There may have been one as early as late as 1890. That's why the whole center of Mexico City was abandoned for over 100 years. Did you know there are mansions and palaces in Mexico City? Now, I never ever dreamed that Mexico would be as beautiful as it is. Like I was always assumed that Mexico was all desert and that people wore mariachi clothes and it didn't have iPhones or Wi-Fi. So I was thinking it was so primitive. No, these people had things and they are ninjas in agriculture, crazy, amazing abilities in agriculture.
Yeah.
They can
Uh,
produce stuff without GMOs. They can produce things without fertilizers. They can they make the best like tortillas and corn on the cob and all that stuff that is really good. Their food is delicious and it's ancient. A lot of the recipes that they have are passed on from generation to generation that were carved in stone. And the oldest of the civilizations that isn't even known yet is the Olmecs. And the Olmecs were older than the Mayas. They were older than the Aztecs. They were before all of that. So they've had several mud flood things happen. And like I said, if it's a small town that only has 10,000 people, then why is there a library that looks like a palace? Why is there a church that looks like a palace? Why is there an insane asylum that looks like a palace? Why is there an orphanage that looks like a palace? For what reason, for people that are using a horse and buggy, how can they lift a 10 kiloton a structure like this using horses and buggies and things like that?
this
Doesn't
is
make
where we
any
keep
sense.
the insane people, and there's so much insane people that we have to keep them in marmor buildings. Yeah.
But who
Yeah.
built the places? Not these idiots.
No.
Then no, these were primitive people who didn't have the ability
Well,
to make the kind of.
a short answer to that would be that I'm not a Bible thumper or anything, but it says in the Bible, my father's house has many rooms, something like that,
Mhm.
right? So I think that this realm was actually created for us in that manner, you know, with those buildings, with those majestical buildings and those majestical structures, and it got corrupted.
We inherited most of it.
Yeah, we actually inherited it, and then it got, how do you say, hijacked and corrupted. That's
The,
the
th-
I mean,
the
that's
theory is
that's not the whole story. That's not whole of the story, but I think that's part of the story. Right?
the theory is that it was the Phoenicians or the Irish. Believe it or not, the Irish
Yeah,
have descendants here in Mexico that have red hair, white skin, freckles. and they're extremely different than the rest of the Mexican population.
Okay, so there's 3 countries in the world. Oh no, there's 4 countries in the world that have er at the beginning. It's Ireland, Iraq, Iran, and Irian Jaya. Right?
Iriam Yaya?
Irian Jaya.
Ah,
That's also a country. Yeah.
okay.
And so that's but Irish. I don't know what Irish means, but I know that Iraq and Iran means like from anger and to anger in Latin, and ire in Latin means anger,
Mm-hmm.
but not anger like angry, but energy. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
more like energy. Like
Now I want your people that are watching you to know something. I'm not an educated guy. I don't know anything. I'm just asking a question. I'm not saying
no,
I'm an expert on this stuff.
we're just pretending to be one on YouTube. Yeah.
We are. We are. We are just, well, I'm not pretending to be anything. I'm definitely my authentic self. There's no question about that. Because it doesn't profit me to lie to you. I mean, it doesn't. Because everybody who does shit in secret will always get found out. And I, for the last person in the world, wants to do anything that's going to embarrass myself anymore. I did that enough.
I'm totally with you. But by the way, I stopped sharing it because it got such a big lag. And I was like, fuck the sharing. I just wanna
Lagging.
to you without the lag, So
All right.
yeah, it's better.
Right on. So if you've been in Amsterdam for, or no, I'm sorry, Rotterdam for a while. Are you living in Rotterdam? Rotterdam?
No, I live between them and more towards the east. So no, I live in Soest.
So
And
you're
so I'm near Amsterdam. I'm closer to Amsterdam than to Rotterdam.
mm-hmm. Do you drive through? Okay, if you were to go from Germany, you'd have to drive through Denmark to go to where you are.
No,
No.
no, no. You never drive from Germany. You never have to drive through Denmark to where I am.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Good. I, I'm
But
I'm 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 terrified of going back anytime soon. I'm not going to involve myself because I know me. I know me. I actually had a thought yesterday that probably would have got me dead because they killed a commander, they killed a firefighter. This is this week. We had a funeral like the other day. If you look on my Instagram, you'll see the funerals.
I don't do
And
Instagram, but I believe you. I mean, when you're a firefighter and you're I mean, I pretty much living how you say it's a hybrid, not a hybrid, a hermit in society. I mean, but
well,
you're since you're a fireman, I mean, you're gonna have to deal with your uh, amount of normies. So there's a lot of people dying around you.
yeah,
I
not just here, but last week, the week before, last month, my neighbor died. He was in a coma. He was a vegetable state for a while. His bus got hit by a train 3 years ago, and his family's kept him in the house for all these years. And then my other neighbor, who's my welder, who does all of our welding, he died last week. He was in a hospital for 2 months. He was one of my best friends here, one of the most accepting Mexican guys who helped me in this neighborhood because no one wanted me to be here. They're like, "Who is this guy? I don't like gringos." And you and I both know we're not gringos if you're from Europe, and
yeah.
so they automatically assume you're American. I said, well, technically, I was in the U.S. military, and I did get a passport, and I did, I am a citizen, so it's not a question of that. And I did serve the United States military for the time that I did. So there's that. However, that doesn't mean that I'm like them. I'm a lot like them, but
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean, even you and me get our fair share of racism too.
Oh yeah, it's
Right.
everywhere I go. Doesn't matter. I've always been the outsider. I've always been the Auslander. I've always been the foreigner. And there's
Yeah.
no question about that. They just look at you like you have your wallet on top of your head all the time. And that's what the Turks did to me, is that they boosted me up like I was the #1 guy in town. I was the best friend of everybody. I was look at how smart he is. Look at how special he is. Look how guapo. Look at the muscles. And then knowing the full well that the minute I walked away, they were talking about me. Knowing full well that they wanted to stab me in the back with the knife they always carried.
And
Knowing full
it's
well,
and what it is that they saw that you had class. They saw that you have class, and they misinterpret that for money. That's what it is. I know that. Yeah. Yeah. What happens? You
well,
must have money.
you're
I mean,
automatically assumed as being rich.
it's like when you have class, you must have money. Otherwise, you would be ghetto. No, dude.
Mhm.
Dude, I just like to attain class. It doesn't take money. Of course, it takes money. You can
Mhm.
be so arrogant or so classy. If you don't, no, you can be as classy as I am without any money. I mean, it's doesn't take money, dude.
No,
And these
and I don't
women,
love money.
I think these women in Mexico understand that better than the man.
Oh yeah, they do. This lady here, because we donate basically 125% of what we bring in. So any kind of donations that we get, like we got like 250 pesos yesterday for one of the class. We took that 250 pesos and went to the fabric store and we bought uniform equipment or uniform material for the kids that don't have anything. And so what's interesting is to see the psychological change in kids that are from a poor family. The family says you'll never be anything, you're never going to go anywhere. But I want to go over there with Wedo, because that's what they call me, Wedo. I want to go over there, Comandante Wedo, and I want to play with those kids and I want to do what they do because they look like they're having fun, all dressed up in firefighter outfits, and they have smoke bombs and hoses, and they want to play. And I'm good with that because now, for the first time in their life, they have a masculine influence that's going to help them from ages 6 to 12 years old, because that's the ages of the kids here.
Yeah.
And then the kids that are going into the second phase, like one kid in front of me here, he came when he was 12. Now he's 15 years old. He went from being a short little guy to being over, 1 meter 85, and he's got muscles now. And his mother said that before he was she told me that that she thought he was autistic, and that the school thought he was autistic because he couldn't read, he didn't want to study, he didn't want to do this, he didn't want to do that. So I started training the kid to do boxing, and then I developed into kickboxing, and then we started doing Muay Thai, and then we started to do jiu-jitsu, and he became more disciplined. He learned how to march, he learned how to wear a uniform correctly.
This
He
guy,
learned,
this guy has only had female teachers.
yeah,
You know,
and a mother that
yeah.
nobody knows who the father is.
I mean, yeah.
Nobody knows who the
And so
father is.
and so he gets. I mean, he gets to know discipline. Boom, 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 boom for 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. How long does it take? Bam, and he's there. It
Right?
it shouldn't even have to take that long.
But a
But
man like myself will get the kind of hate that sign language leads to, and that is shame, insults, guilt, and then they need to be right. So, not here specifically, but in general, let's say we're talking online to very liberal, neo-Marxist type of women that don't want men to exist, and then they see a hyper masculine man that does things with his life, that gives the illusion of wealth, like we just said, but has a level of class about him. Now he's arrogant. Now he's stuck up. Now he's a rich asshole, which I used to be that person. You used to say when someone had money, oh, that guy's a fucking rich asshole. Just a bunch of rich assholes. I don't want to be about a bunch of rich assholes. Well, when you live in fucking Palm Beach and you go to the fucking Palm Beach Opera, people automatically assume that you're super wealthy. And their way of talking to each other is uppity. It's stuck up. It's arrogance. It's my possessions is what defines me. My stuff is what defines me. And I've had everything taken away. I have given everything away, and only to say, you know what, I really didn't need that stuff anyway, and it did me a favor. One of the kids that this is the only thing that upset me about when people steal here, especially, just look at the dumbest thing like a cell phone charger. might be like laying like on the ground at a bus stop, and someone will take it. That's their mentality, is that take what is there, because you'll never be able to buy one. And their mentality is for robbery is that I can never afford what you have, so it's my right to steal it from you because you can replace it.
Well, it's even worse than that. I heard somebody made a statement the other day that was like he owned this great muscle car, and he said this muscle car got so many keys on it that he didn't even want to repair it. He just left it out there on the street. He was so happy with this muscle car, and all the people in his neighborhood, keyed it from day one. From day one, people keyed his muscle car, and he just left it out there for people to key it, and they kept on keying it. It's like, wow.
If you want to see my muscle car,
No, I never did. But I'm like, if you have two muscle cars and you can just have one muscle car out there to be keyed, and everybody keeps on keying it, you're doing a great job, dude. I mean, I love that.
well, here's a bug. I like junk cars. I like to fix old stuff and make it look like new. And so,
Awesome.
where I was in Mexico City, because with the opera, I was able to have access to props and prop makers, and they had a car lot of all the old cars from the 60s and 70s.
Dude, you were just in this gold mine, right?
Well, that's why I think this is a simulation, because I had formulated in my mind that I wanted the transporter car from the movie The Transporter. So instead of being having the black mysterious Audi, instead I turned it into a patrol car for the fire school, for the fire academy. Well, it's an Audi, it's an A6, and it has the souped up engine and all that stuff. Really fancy it for me. But I wrapped it. I cleaned it. By the way, this was junk. It was total junk. It was garbage. It was ready to be crushed. And it's like 2009, so it didn't really matter. But I said, instead of letting this car go to the junkyard, why don't I fix it up and then make it nice, so I'll have a car to drive, for one. And so here it is. I'll show you. It's outside. This is, by the way, where I'm at the fire academy. Now, hopefully I won't lose you in the stream, but there it is, right there. You see it? And this is our bus that I'm working on. And over there, you see that little thing right there? That right there is a buggy. Like, I want to make a buggy. So I do off of a car that's an ancient car, and I put a new chassis on it, so it has an engine, it has power steering and power brakes, so it's not a 1960s junk car. So it has new insides, but the outside looks old. And that was my chassis swap. And Audi, all I did was fix all the parts, fix the engine, fix the transmission, fix the brakes and the suspension, and then I wrapped it with vinyl. So the colors that you see, that's all reflective tape. That's all like code. That's the way it's supposed to be for any kind of emergency vehicle. So I bought a used this, I used that, reproduction of this, cleaned it up, fixed it all myself, painted it myself, primered it myself. Then I took it to a specialty place that does the car wraps, because I don't fuck with that. And they did the inside and they did the outside.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm right now, I'm getting messages from my students that are on their way here. Not here. They're not gonna be here for an hour, and so I'm gonna go and take a nice shower and go make myself look presentable. So
Dude, even before you made yourself representable, it was an honor to meet you.
And here too.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I tried to share it on my channel, but somehow it didn't come across. But
well, once it's published, you can share it however you want.
Cool.
And I don't know if you're on social media or not, but you can look me up on Instagram,
No,
and
I'm just YouTube.
okay, all right with that. But I'll definitely be pumping out more content talking about the subject because it's interesting to me. And it's just because I'm curious. People wonder, how do you do so many things at the same time? And I don't know how I do it. It's just like I said, there's all been like the Legend of Zelda for me.
It's just you're just in a flow, right?
It is. Maybe it's the flow state. I don't know. I've been half my life I was
I
suffering.
didn't want to
So
say that. I didn't want to say that, but I think I met you there. I think I must have met you in flow state channel.
let's get in there, brother. Anyway, Seth, it was good to talk to you.
Yeah, see you on the next one, dude.
If you got any last words before we go.
No, I hate last words.
All right. Well, that's easy enough. We do the Irish goodbye and we're out.
Hey, ciao.